worst to best with the official Survivor YouTuber season rankings. The biggest collab in Survivor history, bringing your favorite content creators together to rank every season of Survivor from worst to best, with 4 separate live streams building into Survivor 43. And we are live, the Survivor YouTuber season rankings, live stream number 4. We're here. I'm kind of sad it's done. I'm not gonna lie. We have a huge panel here for you guys today. Flynnmasters, how's it going? My co-host.
Well, it's going well. Like I said, I can't believe it's over. Like we've been talking. I came up with this idea a long time ago. You and me, I've been talking to setting this up for a long time. Heading into this 3 epic podcasts so far. This is the final one. Yeah, it's crazy. It's over with. I'm excited though at the same time.
If for some reason you're joining us here for the very first time, the Survivor YouTuber season rankings, bringing your favorite Survivor and maybe Big Brother content creators together to figure out once and for all what is the best season of Survivor, the worst season of Survivor, and everything in between, ranking it all together, averaging it all out. The fun part of this is that's kind of all I said, rank the seasons. I didn't give any reasoning behind it. You can choose your own way how you ranked it. And everyone kind of went their own path with this. We got Millennial here for the very first time. Nice to see you. Can you go about how you went with your rankings?
Yeah, just to start off, I was told this was a Big Brother season ranking, so I'm a little bit confused here. But when it came to the rankings, it's strictly just a nice balance of enjoyability when I watched it and how much of like an impact or like legacy it has. Definitely for some of the seasons that we'll talk about, the legacy really carries a lot more than necessarily the gameplay. But at the end of the day, we're at the top 10. All these seasons are a lot of fun to watch. So it's basically every single season that we're going to talk about right now is just going to be filled to the brim with good things to talk about.
Awesome. And you might have noticed we have some returning guests here today for this podcast, for this live stream. Luke, or Idled Out, thank you for coming back. Can you tell us again how you went about your rankings?
Yeah, thanks for having me back, guys. I just went by like, what do I enjoy the most? Like, what is holds up on a rewatch? Basically, what did I enjoy watching the most? So pretty simple for me.
Yeah, and Pretty, I'm saying about you. Thank you for coming in for this final live stream. How would you rank these seasons?
Basically, if Courtney Yates is in it, it's higher up, and the less further we get from Courtney Yates, the further it goes in the rankings. Also, which ones I like the most. Ultimately, it's which seasons I like the most. There are so many reasons, which is great because we have a couple hours to sit down and talk about all those reasons. But yeah, it's a whole multitude of reasons for why. No season's unique. No season's unique. Yeah.
Every Survivor season's like pizza. You know, some are good, some are bad. I don't know how the saying goes. You might have noticed the Survivor Geek sadly could not make it tonight. But that's okay. We have 2 replacements here. And also I had the Survivor Geek give a little video that we'll go through at some point through the stream where he can give his thoughts on 1 or 2 of the seasons. Okay, I'm excited to keep going, guys. We have once and for all the final Survivor Gut Buff giveaway of the Survivor YouTuber season rankings. At some point throughout the stream, you know how it works. We're going to give you a keyword. That's how you enter the giveaway. And at the very end, we'll see who won the buff. Without further ado, what season is going to be first?
What season was number 11, by the way? Or like the last few? Do you guys remember?
11 was Blood versus Water.
Blood versus Water. Oh, okay. I see also Cook Islands was before that. All right. Okay.
Which Cook Islands should have been better. Anyways.
I saw some people asking like what were the ones right before it, but yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'll at some point, guys, release the entire ranking so you have that out in front of you. At number 10 with 355 points. We love this location so much that we decided to never leave it again, and we just stuck with it with Survivor Millennials versus Gen X. I ranked this one 6th out of 42. Flynn, 8th out of 42, Ethan, 9th, Purdium, 19th, and Idled Out, 18th. So we got a little bit of disparity here. We have some people within the top 10, some outside of the top 10. Purdium and Idled Out, I'll start with you. Outside of the top 10, Luke, why in your outside of your top 10 there for Millennials versus Gen X?
For me, I don't know. It's a little, I want to say it's like kind of game body, but it's not. I don't know. There are just other better seasons, I guess. It just got outclassed by everything. I don't know, it has pacing issues. Like the pre-merge is pretty boring. And then like down the stretch, there's like 8 people in the final 2 episodes. I mean, the like early pre-merge is great, but pacing wise, I don't know. It kind of is slow in the beginning and then like too fast at the end.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I have in my notes right here. The worst part about it, big move-itis. Prettium, do you agree with that? Is that why it's kind of in your like average-ish rankings, or is there other reasons?
I'd say there's a couple reasons. It's the first in Fiji, but now that we're like 10 seasons deep into Fiji, I don't look at it as unique or as fondly as I might have 5 years ago. There's like, I like the cast because they're very likable, a lot of them, but there's alternatively, I don't always watch Survivor to watch a bunch of likable people be nice to each other. I also like to have villains and people to root against, and I didn't get that. And I need that. I think I realized looking at a lot of my favorite seasons, it's nice when there are players who have downfalls and like they're fun to watch have downfalls, and not like in a mean way, but just, you know, they lost the game and they thought that they were going to win or something. I can't really account for that too much. Yeah, I don't know. That's a part of it. Also, I echo what Luke had said. It starts to feel quite bloated, especially at the end. They have like too many people in the finale. They're the double boot. I think the Gen X tribe isn't that exciting overall. I like the Millennials. I remember loving the Millennials when it first started, and I was like, this is the tribe to watch. The Gen Xers didn't really have too many, highlights.
There are a lot of forgettable Gen Xers. I guess they are like kind of a forgettable generation overall. Sorry, Gen Xers watching. Yeah, I totally co-sign that. A pretty boring tribe altogether.
I'm pretty sure all of us here are millennial or Gen Z, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
1999.
Yeah.
Yep.
Can't relate to Gen X.
Ethan, very first time here. Let's get your thoughts on this season. You got it within your top 10, 10th overall, but you had it at number 9. I think you're a little more fond on this season. Why is that?
I definitely am a little more fond. I think this part of it's probably just like the time that I watched it. This was when I was like peak into Survivor. It's right around when I started really going back and watching stuff. And although the beginning was a little bit slow, it's all about how you finish. And the back half was very high pace. Having a rock draw with, what was it, like 7 people taking part of it is ridiculous. And the fact that it ended, like, Jessica just so, I'm not saying it was so exciting watching Jessica be so sad, but it's memorable. Like, I remember that rock draw and the fact that it could have gone so many different ways and it could have shifted how things played out. It just really sticks out to me. And although, the finale was a bit bloated, there were a lot of like big moments. David Wright, especially tricking Jay with the idol, is probably not actually one of my favorite moments. That's probably a little bit much, but in the moment watching it, it was mind blowing. It just went exactly as I hoped it went, and just overall, it was a pretty satisfying winner. Very exciting post merge, and at that point I was able to forgive a little bit of the lackluster pre-merge.
Awesome. Yeah, for me personally, a big part of it was I just remember so fondly the Jay and Adam relationship. Hey Flynn, welcome back. Sorry for voting you off the island there real quick. We were just talking about that Jay and Adam relationship, and you had this season in your top 8. We haven't really talked about that much yet. Is that the reason this season's in your top 10? What are the other reasons behind it? I'd love to hear that thought.
It's just a general likable cast. I do hear what the others are saying, that it's almost like too likable and too game body. But for me, the cast is super, super likable, and they're all here to play. So many good rounds, and like you said, a lot of emotional moments between Jay and Adam. A lot, we talk about, yes, the finale is bloated, but half that finale, Jay, Adam, and David all had like serious chances at winning, not only gameplay wise but edit wise. So that was really fun to watch. Pretty much, that's pretty much the comment right there. This season was just flat out fun. It was fun, really, really fun season. Great cast, great overall flow to this season. Again, it got a little game body, a little too crazy. Like, Will literally goes from going to rocks to like flipping the next vote. Like, you know what I mean? So, but it still makes for fun TV. Yes, stupid what Jay did to blindside Michaela, but at least to an all-time great moment. So I can definitely see why people want to have this top 10, but there's just so much to like about this season for me. And that's why I have it top 10. Great casts, great gameplay, a lot of memorable moments. Except unfortunately, like I said, now we're stuck here in Fiji. So I guess it was a little too good.
As you guys remember, the whole reason we started doing this was the RHAP season rankings. We want to compare what the YouTubers season rankings were compared to the RHAP Survivor community as a whole. And as we go through this, I'm going to let you know what they ranked as 10, 8, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and what we did. So, for example, we ranked Millennials Gen X at number 10. The RHAP community as a whole ranked Token Shins at number 10. So we'll see. We might have that one coming up soon. Compare it as we go, chat. Get ready for that. And as you all remember, the rapid fire question of the season, I pick one of my co-hosts to give them a rapid fire question on the spot. And chat, I want you to get involved as well and give your best answer. For Millennials versus Gen X, the rapid fire question is, will we ever see it? And would you want to see Survivor Gen Z versus Millennials? This one's for you, Flynn. Do you want to see the future battle of the
what's more can they really add except just an easy, cheesy theme at this point, you know? I mean, it'd just be the same thing. It'd probably be even more damn cheesy nowadays. Oh, my God.
But the young kids like Jeff wants, the 16-year-olds.
Oh, you want to see like that type of season? Okay.
Well, I don't know. What do you want to see?
Okay. You know, that actually might be interesting. Hey, you know what? Honestly, I'd rather see, as bad as it might be, train wreck as might see, because again, there's only so much you can add. You know, it's amazing that the season worked because it was such a dumb and just desperate theme, just to give a theme anyway. So, if anything, if you actually want to have a theme in the future, you know, I would actually kind of be interested to see like a teens versus, I don't know, 3-tribe format, teens versus prime age versus older age. That'd be kind of interesting, I guess. It'd be a complete train wreck fight. Maybe like 25.
Yeah, what's prime age mean?
25, 35 range.
Like Sigma, Alpha, Beta.
Oh, yeah. There we go.
Yeah.
Do you use TikTok or Facebook? Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, that's actually
no.
a good comparison. Number 9 here, the top 10 best seasons of all time. For a little example, number 10 Millennials Gen X had 355 points. This next one had 381. So we had a pretty big jump here from 10th place over to 9th place. The best ranked old school season, and some even say it's the best season of all time, was Survivor Pearl Islands. I ranked it 9th out of 42, Flynn 18, Ethan 8th, Peridium 4th, and Idle Out 4th. You two got along pretty good near the end of these rankings, I must say. We'll start with you, Flynn, here 18th out of 42. Is something okay? Is something wrong? What's going on with Pearl Islands almost in your bottom half?
Well, I mean, if you guys watch my podcast, the number one thing for me is gameplay for wise. You know, I know a lot of people are all about the cast and whatnot. For me, I need like really good gameplay throughout. Really, and that's not even just like good gameplay, like a really good flow throughout. And to me, with the Pearl Islands, there are just a couple of slow episodes, especially in that pre-merge, like the Ryan boots, kind of the Lil boots, You know, Trish and Michelle, while they are kind of funny, which led up to their boots, you know, like Michelle completely messed up that challenge. And, you know, after Trish got voted out, you know, Rupert went, you know, completely off on fair play. So that's fun. But like the boots themselves are and, you know, and I think the thing is, you know, a lot of people say it's like the most iconic cast ever. And, you know, people are like, oh, has fair play, has Sandra, has Rupert. Then what, you know what I mean? It's like so top heavy. I mean, of course you have like people like Savage, even Burton, Lil in a way, but you also have like, again, like Ryan's, I can't remember the one girl's name. Krista, you had Daryl in the final 4. Like, who is that? You know what I mean? And all the forgettable pre-merge boots. You know, say what you will, but you have Austin. That's true. You can't forget about the first ever quiz. So I don't know. Like I said, I think this cast, I wouldn't say overrated, just insanely top heavy. And there's just a little bit too much slow pace. Not a big fan of the Outcast twist. So all those little things combined, you know, if I honestly had to do it over again, I probably would put a little higher. But just little too many things here and there that kind of don't. And of course, I'm sure it'd be different. I actually watched Pearl Islands live. I can't imagine what it must have been like seeing that fair play live. But, you know, has its moments, but just not quite for me.
Ethan, I'll hop on you next. 8th out of 42. You did Millennials versus Gen X, 1 under the average. Same with Pearl Islands, right? 1 under the average. Why? What do you like about the season?
I think just as a whole, this is probably the like the oldest season that holds up the best today. I think it's weird for me to call it like a very balanced season because at least like the very beginning of the season is a very like one side dominates and then the other side kind of rebounds and comes back. But all throughout, like I'm pretty entertained all the way, start to finish. It's kind of like a side thing, but I just find it a little humorous looking back, just how like dramatic the show took Austin's quit. Like they didn't show his like final words. They put his torch on the ground for the rites of passage, and then just to like find out that he was suffering from like numerous staph infections at the time that he quit. So I always kind of found that a little bit funny. Plus, I mean, like the moments, like again, start to finish, very first episode, you've got Rupert stealing the shoes. You got the Johnny Fairplay, she died, dude. I can get loud too. There's just very memorable moments for such an early season that people that are just watching Survivor now could possibly be like, oh, I've heard about when Johnny Fairplay talked about his grandma being died and lied about that. It's my go-to if I'm going to rewatch an older season. I'm always tempted to pick this one, and I just think it's a really good season.
Luke and Peridium, you both ranked this one number 4, the exact same rankings, within your top 5, so a little under the average there. Luke, I'll go with you first. Did you watch the season live when it first came out?
I did, yeah. Which I guess, I don't know, maybe that kind of skews my rankings, but I don't know. Yeah, so many big moments, but I kind of disagree a little bit with Flynn that like the cast is top heavy because, okay, so they are top heavy, right? Like Rupert, Sandra, Fairplay, these are like legendary characters, but even kind of like I don't know, even the people who aren't like super famous, like Sean is really interesting there, but he's someone who a lot of Survivor fans probably, aren't thinking about too much. Lil's great. Savage just being this like crazy alpha and then like constantly losing in the beginning and trying to blame it on anyone but his poor leadership is really fun. So even like kind of the MOR 3 characters are just really entertaining too. So I think from top to bottom it's like a great cast. Even Dara's good in how I don't know, I don't want to say boring, but she hope she's not watching, but she's like, in terms of like, if you're going to be like completely invisible, she's like the most fun invisible there is. So
the grandma lie, watching that live,
yeah.
What was that whole thing like?
Yeah.
Who's got the siren? Somebody's got a
Yeah.
siren.
Yeah, that's for me. Sorry.
Oh, I
Just
was
can't
like,
play. Jeez.
yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, this was a time when like people watching Survivor took it like really seriously. Like that was like crossing a line, I mean, that was like completely immoral. I think now if you to kind of look at like a modern parallel in Australian Survivor, when Harry lies about having a kid and gets caught in that lie, everyone, the cast kind of like laughs it off and no one's like really super offended. But if he did that in, the Pearl Islands era, I mean, people would be calling for his head. So, I mean, yeah, it was like, I mean, front page news basically that a guy like lied about his grandma dying. Like, how could he,
Yeah.
Didn't they kind of condemn Nick Danza on the season of Australian Survivor for basically trying to play? Like,
right. Well,
that was
yeah,
only in 2016, but
That's insane.
I mean,
I
maybe
guess
it was the cast. I don't know.
I think it was the cast that,
Too nice, hey?
yeah.
Yeah, something to do with the first season. Yeah, I think I would say most of this is a strong cast. I don't think everyone's gonna be on the cover of the DVD, but that doesn't mean that the people who aren't, the 12 who aren't, or the 10 who aren't, I think a lot of them are really good. They all have at least a couple of memorable moments. I enjoyed them for better or worse. I think Austin and his Pelican story is fantastic. He wants to quit by the second episode, and he makes it like 5 episodes deep, 6 episodes deep, complaining and having to deal with a giant bird attacking him. I would say Trish is one of the less memorable people, but I will also say I have actually spoken to Trish, not in person, but on a call for like many hours. So that really filled in like a personal blank for Pearl Islands because I don't have a lot to remember her by. I think that Lil getting voted out, her torch doesn't get snuffed the first time was like ridiculous. I don't know how you explain that other than it's just faked, but I don't think that's possible. The she died dude of it all, like, it's top 5 iconic moment in the show, maybe even number 1. other than something that Richard Hatch did. Rupert is Rupert for the first time. I don't know. I think that this has a really fun flow where you get the underdog Morgan tribe, who ultimately are the failure tribe, but they start out as underdogs and you kind of root for them. But then Drake is like a huge, just a jumbled mess of a tribe. They start falling apart themselves after throwing a challenge that leads to their demise. And then it comes together with this ridiculous, never before seen since twist that not even Edge of Extinction was like an echo of it, like 30 seasons later, and it just didn't land as well. I don't know. I have it in my top 4. I think it's the best old school season. I think it's unrivaled. It doesn't have like the fastest gameplay, but if you watch the seasons in order, I feel like Pearl Islands will stand out the most of the first. I don't know how many. You keep going until you find one that hits harder, but I think if you go back, you might not appreciate it as much, maybe because it is slower. They're all a bit slower. And also, I think it has probably the best premiere episode outside of maybe Heroes Villains.
I was just going to touch on that. Probably one of the best first episodes of all time. That marooning, the pirate thing, Sandra being the communicator. Like, that's all such funny, good TV. Not really Survivor, but good reality TV to set the tone for this whole pirate theme of the season. Pearl Island, we ranked as number 9. The RHAP community ranked Survivor Cambodia as number 9. So a little back and forth there, a little comparison. The rapid fire question of Survivor Pearl Islands. Get ready to go, chat, and get ready to go, Ethan. Prettium kind of touched on this a little bit. Is this season still considered top tier if it comes out today, or is it simply the best classic era season?
That's kind of a tough question because if it came out today, it would probably be edited a bit differently, and there would be changes made to the pacing that, I mean, if you're going to even like make it more fast paced, I can't really imagine that taking away from the season. So I do still think that this season would be looked upon highly if it came out today.
Yeah, cool.
I think it would definitely be a top 4 season.
I think it would have been top 9. Anyways. At number 8, 384 points, just 3 points ahead of number 9. So now we're getting a little bit tighter in the rankings here. Arguably one of the last character-driven seasons with so many top-tier characters and players. We have Survivor Tocantins. I ranked it 14th, Flynn 20th, Ethan 12th, Peridium 5th, and Idled Out 7th. This one we're all like pretty spread out on, from middle of the pack all the way to one of the better seasons. Again, Luke and Peridium, you guys pretty similar, 5th and 7th there. I'll start with you, Peridium. I think this was the first season you ever watched live. Did that have anything to do with the rankings? Or did you try and be as objective as possible?
No, I didn't. I don't really care either. Like it's the same for Big Brother. Like I can acknowledge that a season has some flaws, but I also, for me personally, I like the season a lot. I also think it's generally well regarded in the community, so it kind of works out at the end of the day. It's not really a hot take to have Tocantins as a high season, I don't think. Maybe arguably more top heavy of a character season. You've got like the big hitters, Coach and Tyson. I love them. They are horrible anti-heroes that are great to laugh at. And if a good barometer to understand if a person watching Survivor takes it seriously or not is how much they appreciate or hate Coach, I feel. Because if you're able to laugh at Coach, or sometimes even with him or with the rest of his tribe, you'll have a great time. And if you aren't, and you're despising him and his horrible, ridiculous stories, then you may not love the season as much, because he does go far and he takes up a lot of. He does sort of start this era of the show with like camera hogs really taking up a bulk of the airtime every episode. It just so happens he's Coach, so he's probably the best of all those characters anyway. I was a big fan of JT and Steven's bromance. Again, this is the first season I ever really watched of Survivor. I did watch the original 3 seasons when I was really young, and I don't have the strongest memories of them, so I don't know. They are what they are. But watching Tocantins, really rooting for JT and Steven. I totally bought into the narrative. I was there for it. And they still are really good friends, so like that's really cool. It wasn't just, a fabricated edit. I loved it. And I was so happy. And it's like, it's very rare that like your 2 favorites get to the final 2. And I was like so spoiled. And now that's like never happens. I don't know if that's ever happened, honestly. Like if I objectively try to rank the players after like 1 or 2 episodes, based on how much I like them. But I love that. Taj is really great. The underdog hero story, the Timbira tribe are such villains and they get such comeuppance, and it's so satisfying. Like Tyson getting blindsided is one of the greatest blindsides in the history of Survivor. It is so juicy to watch, and Sierra is this hero underdog who, has her flaws, but watching her like be shocked is fantastic. And I love the setting. I think it's one of the most unique setting Survivor may ever have. The dunes are so cool. You never get anything like it, so it goes a long way for me as well.
Well, jump on to you, Luke, next, Idled Out. You also have this season within your top 10. Same kind of reasons as Peridium. Is it from the characters, the location? What is to love about this season?
Yeah, I mean, all of the above. Pretty much Peridium covered everything, but I mean, the only like real knock against this season for me is that the pre-merge like Jollipow stuff isn't super exciting, but I mean, like Joe and Sydney aren't exactly like knocking my pants off or anything, but everything else about the season is just top notch. I for my money, the coach boot at Final Five is the literal best episode of that Survivor ever made. His exile trip is, I think, the funniest thing ever made. Maybe like it is so good. Like it's amazing that in that episode, the like boring part of the episode is like JT and Steven going on a reward together. Like that's the part where you're like, can we like yada yada this and just get back to coach and all that drama. Really great location, great characters. Coach is the best casting of all time. Amazing story with Jollipow overcoming Timbira. Just great season all around.
Like, who is this jackass?
Yeah.
It's great.
Exile Island is here this season. We're bringing 2 people together. We almost get this unique Exile Alliance. Ethan, you ranked this season number 12. Can you talk a little bit about the Exile Island this season, Exile Alliance, and if you want to overall as well?
Yeah, it's really funny that you picked me because I kind of forgot that was even like a thing in the season, because I'm going back looking. I was like, I'm thinking about the moments, and I'm thinking just like Tyson moments. I'm thinking JT and Steven. I'm thinking coach. And I really wish I had more to say about the Exile Island because I really just don't remember. I should have watched this a little more recently. It's been, I will admit, it has been a very long time since I've seen this season. But if you want to ask me anything else about the season, I'm sure to have a better answer.
JT, first ever perfect game. Go.
Oh my God. It's not even just the perfect game. It's the fact that not only does he play perfectly, he wins the sprint. Was it sprint player of the year, or was it the sprint favorite then?
Yeah.
And he's got Brendan wanting JT to win like that. That's when you know that it's like, how is JT not going to win at this point? He's got Brendan being like, you know what? I'd like
Brendan was one of the richest people to ever play Survivor. I think he might have been the richest at the time. So he was kind of like, I don't even need the money. If the person I like the most wins, like I will support them more because he needs it more than I do. He was the owner of Bare Naked Granola. I think he sold it for like 80 million or something crazy.
Wait, really? That is insane. I had no idea.
Other than David Sampson on Cagayan. Yeah. Brendan from Token Jeans. Rich dude.
Wow. You learn something new every day. Flynn, we're going to bounce to you next. You have this season at your 20th overall. With all the positive, with everything we're loving about this season, is there anything that you're like, this didn't work, or something that you didn't like about this season?
I mean, just take what I said for per island. It's kind of the same thing. Like the cast, you have your greats like to Jollipow 3. Of course, you have Coach, Tyson, all those people. But then you have, your Jerrys, your Sydneys, your Joes of the world. It's just, who are these people? And again, the big thing for me is, you have Brendan's blindside. That's fun. You have Tyson's blindside. Again, one of the best of all time with everything that led up to that. And Taj is pretty fun. It was, cool to see JT and Steven be in the dilemma if they should get rid of Taj or take her to the 3. So that's cool. And I guess the coach, episode itself is fun, despite the tribal council not being that interesting. But man, there was just not many other fun tribal councils this season. It's all pretty predictable. That pre-merge especially is just gameplay wise, it's just not doing it for me. And again, I see why, all-time great characters here. The flow's pretty well. Again, it's a solid season for me. I just simply need more gameplay wise. It just didn't hit for me like it would for other people, and that's fine.
I think the merge is underrated also. I've rewatched it recently. It's the merge is a little more chaotic than you might expect for like 18th season. Even though it ultimately ends with a medevac, which is the most stand-in, mannequin player in the history of the show with Joe. Yeah.
They're getting ready for a big blindside, and then boom, right?
Yeah.
Number 8, we had Token Shings. Number 8 from the RHAP rankings. Now, this is one we had much lower, and for obvious reasons, they had it a little higher. They had the Amazon. I wonder why. We talked about the Amazon a little while ago, so before we get into the rapid fire question, Peridium, get ready to go. It's going to be you. Chat, we got 105 people in here live right now. Thank you so much for checking this out stream. But we only have 26 likes. So if you haven't already, make sure you go like this stream as we get ready for the rapid fire question. You talked about how this duo is one of your favorite duos of all time. Did the jury get it wrong? JT versus Steven. Also, JT's future Survivor appearances, like, does he need Steven? Like, what's going on there? Love to hear your thoughts.
I think needing a player is a little weird of a question because the cast is so is it JT going into Heroes Villains? But it's not just JT from Token Chains. It's now JT's second go around. So it's like he's already won $1 million. I feel like that factors in heavily. Also, he's much older, in Game Changers also factors in a little bit. So it's like you don't get the same iteration of the player. So I personally don't think you need anyone as like a part of your game, but it doesn't hurt to have somebody that you can rely on. Like, for the most part, Steven would have taken JT as far as he can, and he did. And to be fair, JT helped Steven as well.
Yep.
But Steven wanted to cut JT as quickly as he could. It's just the numbers and the relationships at the time. Like, I don't think a jury, I don't really think that they got it wrong or JT didn't deserve it over Steven. I think, you get to the end, the jury wants you to win. They vote for you. You got the votes. But at the same time, I do think Steven is one of the better runner-ups we've ever seen. Strategically, he knew what he needed to do. He just unfortunately was in a series of positions where he really couldn't get it done. And you see that really come out in Cambodia when he's struggling. It's like a follow-up storyline of his failure the first time. He knew what he needed to do, and now he's overly anxious to do it. So yeah, I think Steven's a great runner-up. I'm happy with JT winning. I think JT deserved to win. I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, it looks like chat definitely believes with you there. It goes along.
Yeah.
Next up, guys, number 7. 391 points. This season, number 7 is tied with number 6. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. Many fans dreamed what would happen if you filled a season with Survivor winners. Well, that's exactly what happened. We got Survivor. Winners at war. I ranked this one the worst out of everyone, 20th out of 42. Flynn, 16. Ethan, 11. Peridium, 12. And Luke, 14th. Pretty interesting. Everyone on this panel ranked it outside of their personal top 10, but averaging out everyone that took place in the Survivor YouTuber rankings, it came here at number 7. So pretty interesting there. I'll start off with a few negatives. The season gets complicated pretty quickly, a little too confusing. We have the Edge of Extinction. We have fire tokens, which are kind of like a little hit or miss there. A lot of things that makes the season feel like wasted potential in a way. I get it. The cast is amazing. I get it. Season 40, bringing all these people together. But it's almost the what if that the season could have been better. So we'll start with you, Flynn. You ranked it 16th, the closest to me. Outside of your top 10, why?
I mean, pretty much you touched on it. It's really, really complicated. The fire tokens. I don't hate the Edge as much as some people, especially for this season, because we got to see, when they got eliminated, we still got to see their stories. But you can tell they're rushing. Like that final 10 round where Tyson goes home, like they do the family visit for like half the episode. They do a challenge and they talk for like 2 minutes, showing all the discussions. Like what happened? There's a lot of rounds like that where you just don't know what's really happening, especially in that post merge, or they just edit it really badly and really not lazily, but it was so complicated they had to rush it in a way. And of course, like I said, I never watched old school, but I can only imagine if you're an old school fan watching this boot order. Oh man, that is a brutal boot order. But at the same time, so there are some pretty negatives there with the editing, the boot order. But I mean, come on, Tony's a 2-time winner. How does Tony win this season? That's insane. The Sandra going home due to Denise's double idol play. The Sophie 4-3-2 blindside. The cops are us fire making challenge. Completely forgot about that. Adam taking a page out of places a page book in South Africa. That's so cool. So, there's some great all-time moments. It's like pretty much like you said, oh, what could have been if just the editing was better, if it wasn't all these dumb fire tokens and all these dumb twists and all that stuff. So, yeah. So just above average for me. Good season. Could have been better.
Luke, you're in a pretty interesting spot. You started watching Survivor very beginning, day one. You also started your YouTube channel around this time, so getting really dedicated in the video making process, the getting concrete. This is Survivor. I'm going to analyze it all. Why'd you rank this season how you did?
Yeah, I mean, logically, I'm like, yeah, the fire tokens are a big nothing burger. The boot order's a nightmare. But it's like I also don't even care. Like the season is just like a Survivor fan's dream. Especially, I mean, the cast, they really hit it out of the park there too. I think, if you heard Winners at War, you could kind of cynically think like it's going to be like kind of front loaded with like all new people, and they really, I mean, they go deep in the vault on some of these. Like Danny is like a really inspired pick for me, even though it didn't work out for her necessarily. Yeah, great cast. The edge actually pays off for me because we do get to see like these big people like Boston.
It
Rob
pays
and
off
Harvey
during
and
Edge of
Ethan.
Extinction anyway. The first season it works too. So
yeah,
like, one.
I mean, yeah, I agree. Edge is 2 for 2. It has improved both seasons it's been on. So yeah, let's do Edge of Extinction every season, please. No, just
don't give me
kidding.
ideas.
Just kidding. Can't stress how kidding I am.
I think so.
But yeah, just as like, especially as like a longtime fan, just the most hype season of all time for me, like bar none. And Tony winning on top of it all is just like the cherry on top.
Ethan, we'll go to you next. Survivor, Winners at War. Even though we can all agree this is a messy season, like I think we all wish the season was better. So many iconic moments. What is to love about this season with everything we're complaining about?
All right, I'm gonna try to get like a little more like things that you wouldn't necessarily off the top of your head remember, but just like the little things that really make me love this season is, season 1 world. Kim pretty much plays perfectly. We get here like episode 1 or 2, they're showing Kim like scrambling out of her comfort zone. A Kim I've never seen before. You've got Wendell being like the villain of his tribe for like a few episode stretch, which also isn't like the Wendell that we got to see. So they're showing us different aspects of these winners that we might not have been able to see on the seasons that they won, on the seasons that we should have gotten the most of these players. We're seeing another side of them that we didn't necessarily get to see. Also, that scene where Nick is just like creeping around everyone and like they're like showing him just like hanging around. Oh my goodness, I got so many laughs during that. So even though like there is so much going on and the editing sometimes can be a little all over the place because there are so many things to go over, there's like the little tiny moments that it's just nice. All of the winners coming together, being able to just see the little more personable, maybe not necessarily game stuff, is just a nice little cherry on top of such a monumental season.
Iconic moment. We also had the Queen Slayer, Denise idling out, Sandra out of the game. We'll go to you, Peridium, next. Some more iconic moments. The good outweighs the bad. What's going on with this season? Did you wish for anything more out of it?
Yeah, I wished for my favorite winners to go farther. I mean, I always say like the best thing about Winners at War was just looking at the cast list and fantasizing what the hell could happen. The worst thing is seeing what happened in a way, but also the best thing because it's all your favorite winners colliding and like ruining and taking each other out. And then you get the edge, which in a weird way kind of works. I can sort of have this cognitive dissonance where I hate the edge as a twist, but I love the fact that I'm seeing all my favorite winners, or a lot of them, still hanging around, and they have a chance to come back, even though I don't really love that for the game. There are, like Ethan was saying, I love how many little callbacks there are, and if you're not really too privy, it's like a Survivor super fan nerd's dream to just see all of this, all these players colliding from over 20 seasons all on your screen, and to know all their stories and to know who they kind of are, because you've seen them all for an entire season already. And then to see continuations from previous storylines of previous seasons where they won. Interestingly, is like Tony is like one of the least dynamic, as far as he's just Tony from Cagayan, and he's back to Tony in the new season. It's like the same thing over. He had a little bit of a speed bump with Game Changers, but even then he's kind of the most same person of the whole thing. And it's yeah, like there's a lot going on with the twist that I don't like. The tokens are totally forgettable. There's a lot of advantages. I could do with longer episodes. I do think this season would have greatly benefited from at least another half hour.
Yeah.
Give us another half hour. I watched all of the extra scenes, and it made me love them even more. Every episode has extra scenes. It's the only season where I've gone and saved and watched every single one of them, because I just wanted to get more of it. And I think that's the power of Winners at War. And it's why, in spite of all of its flaws and all of the things that I didn't like, I'm such a super fan of the show. And it meant so much to just spend 10 years and to have this be like a celebration. And to think that we almost didn't get it. You know, like Jeff was like, we're never going to get like 10 fantastic female winners anytime soon. And it's like, okay, Jeff, like get a grip, buddy. Like get a load of yourself. Okay. Yeah. So I'm happy that it existed. Could have been better, but ultimately I'm happy that we got it at the end of the day before the show ends, whenever it does. I'm glad that it happened.
And so the RHAP rankings, pretty crazy here. Spoiler alert, this might happen a couple more times. We ranked at number 7. Rob has a podcast, number 7. The exact same rankings. This is going to happen a few more times here at the very, very end. It didn't happen at all up until this point, which is super bizarre and weird how maybe the top 7 is going to come a few more times. Rapid fire question. Chat, get ready to go. Idled out, get ready to go here. We all agreed the season is not in the top 10. Right on top of your head, one easy fix to improve the season and make it better. Go. One thing right now.
It's fewer advantages. I mean, does anyone remember that Parvati had an idle nullifier? Yeah, she did.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm dead serious. Yep, she got it. She had one. Just, yeah, oversaturated with advantages. It does have some, some of the like frustrating trappings of, reverse the boot order. It does have some of the the trappings of Modern Survivor, but number one for me would be just too many advantages and fire tokens. What were they thinking?
Good.
Look at all these comments. Everyone's giving an idea what to do.
I think a 30-minute more episodes for every single one would
That's
have
mine,
covered.
yeah.
Would have covered, like you talk about, like the Tyson boot Flynn and the post merge. I hated that because I'm like, look, I love family visits. They're fine. They add a unique character flavor to everyone, but it was such a complicated like the amount of strategy happening, and I had no idea what was going on. Kind of feels like there's just a whirlwind every post merge episode, and I'm kind of just left like, I don't know it's like a ball of yarn. And I'm like, if they gave me just 30 more minutes, I think they would have gone so far with that. I don't know.
Paramount Plus. Like what? It's a wasted potential right there. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
Number 6, tied with number 7, tied with Winners at War. So chat, I want you to let us know down below if you think Winners at War should have been ahead of this season in the rankings. If you're not aware, any tie, we chose the winner based on my Survivor season tournament. I did maybe a month and a half ago now on my community post. We did 2 seasons battling out at a time. You would vote on what season you thought was better. Eventually we had a winner. Whatever season performed better in that Survivor tournament, that's what we gave the tie winner to. So in this case, tied with Winners at War with 391 points. A theme that I hope we get one day soon. Survivor Cambodia, Survivor Second Chances.
45.
I ranked it 2nd overall. Flynn 9th, Ethan 4th, Peridium 15th, and Idled Out 17th. Now, for me personally, 2nd, I loved the campaigning preseason. I really got involved with that. I love that so much. Remember all the RHAP, all the interviews of the players coming together, campaigning why you should get their vote to come back on. I remember the reunion show of Worlds Apart saying, hey, you get a second shot. You don't. And then you had the Shane Powers funeral, not getting to go on the island. It was devastating.
Don't remind
That's
me.
a big part of it for me. But on the very flip side of things, Flynnmasters 9th. What's the love? What's the hate about Survivor Cambodia?
I'm surprised it's not number one for you.
Yeah.
Oh, I see how it is. Okay, yeah. So yeah, you guys should know, right? So this season is literally what it sounds like. This is 20 players getting a second chance of lifetime, and man, they are going for it nonstop. And I get now the reason why it's not number one, right, is because it gets a little too game body, right? And there are still some bad edited characters. Like it sucked to see Abby and Keith make a deep run again and be pretty invisible. Kimmy as well was pretty invisible. Kelly Wigglesworth after being the runner-up of season 1, and who is she? Because she got like 4 total confessionals, and like she's somehow this big threat at the final 11. All of a sudden, it's like what's going on here? But you can't deny there is like the gameplay just does not stop at all this season, which again could be bad for some people. But what you got the whole PG Abby feud, you have the Monica 3-2-1 blindside. You of course got the iconic tribal councils as well with the idol plays from Wentworth at the final 12 on Savage, and then the final 6 0 vote. That's incredible. And even that, I think, even though the season has become like a joke of how game body it is, you still have your moments. The Sharon, I think people forget about the Shireen and Spencer episode where they know it's those two going home, and they're just pretty much crying and hugging each other. They have no choice but to vote for each other. That's always cool. And Spencer's, as you said, this season was pretty much him learning how to be human. So that was fun to watch. While Jeremy's, that's another thing I don't really like about the season. Jeremy's winner edit was a little too obvious, but it's still cool to see, his edit, his wife coming out, announce his baby or whatever. That's cool. You have Kelly Wentworth, representing all these forgotten pre-merge players. Again, what this season represents, getting that second chance of lifetime, and she absolutely took advantage of it. And she drops that ball at the final immunity challenge. It's over. Oh man, this season just never stops really for me gameplay wise. So it's pretty much what it sounds like, and it's a really fun season that never stops.
Ethan, I'll hop on you next. You put the season within your top 5. Personally, I love that. I love this season as well. I'm guessing the strategy, you like the strategy maybe over some of the character moments. Why is the season 4th place overall for you?
This season is 4th place overall because although maybe as like time goes on, I'll look back and be like, yeah, that was way too chaotic of a season. I'm going into every episode and it's like, I have no idea who's even working together at this point. The huge emphasis on voting block. So it's basically just a way of saying, I don't need to be loyal to you next episode, but I'll vote with you this episode. But just the fact that it was so fast paced kept me more engaged than I've been in a lot of seasons. And plus at the time I was a really big Spencer fan, and it felt like every other episode in the pre-merge, he was going to be going home, and then he would somehow be saved by 1 vote, or Cass Cass finally decides to work with Spencer just for Spencer to repay her and vote her out a couple episodes later. But at the time I was like, it was, I don't really know how to describe it. It's hoping I finally get my way, and then I get my way time and time again. And then as for the cast, outside of T-Bird and Shane not making it on, I feel like most of the heavy hitters that I would have wanted to watch made it on the season. Just overall, it's a pretty solid season. The fact that they had the fans vote made you really feel like you were part of it, and you were a part of picking how the season was going to play out. And I don't know, it just holds a special place in my heart. I probably can admit I'm ranking it a little bit too high, but I'll stick to it.
Luke, I was surprised that you ranked this one 17th, almost in the bottom half. Maybe go over any of the negatives about the season, why it is 17th overall for you.
Yeah, 17th, being the 17th ranked season of Survivor is still pretty good. It's no One World or anything. But yeah, it just gets a little too game body. Some of the post-merge boots are confusing, like the Kelly Wigglesworth vote. It comes out of nowhere. For me personally, this is a season that's close to my heart too, because the preseason was probably the most hype preseason in Survivor history. The fan voting was super exciting and engaging. The players actually campaigning, and then for me personally, I live in Seattle. Kelly Wentworth lives in Seattle, and so I actually was able to like meet her, and then to have her then go on and just kind of have this like hometown hero who like really embodies the second chance theme, and then she goes on and each episode we're like, oh my god, she's like doing better and better, she's getting a ton of confessionals, and then I mean, just to see her go so far and go from like forgotten pre-merge boot to genuine survivor legend was just super exciting. So yeah, it's not a bad season by any means. It has a few flaws in how it's presented, but great cast. The boot order is pretty good, and just a little too game body for me, but it's a really fun and good season overall.
I just gotta say real quick, shout out Emerson. I'm a swim coach, and it was crazy. Our first week of swimming started this week on Monday, and one of the swimmers came up to me on his phone, said, "Yo, is this you?" and pulled up my YouTube channel. I was like, "No way, that's crazy!" So shout out you, that's awesome. Pretty, we'll go on you next. Survivor Cambodia, you ranked this one 15th. I gotta say, I was confused. I was a little surprised about this ranking as well. The strategy, and maybe a little too game body for you personally. What's
I think there's a couple of things. Some of the negatives, ultimately, like again, like with Luke, top 15 is still really good in considering it had 42 seasons, and I would place it higher than a lot of even international seasons that I've seen. So for me, like it's still a good one. I like it. It's probably gone down over the years because when I first watched it, I was very excited. I don't think I've ever had a more like visceral reaction than Kelly Wentworth playing that idol against Andrew Savage. I remember that very well where I was, and
does not count or will not count. I don't know.
Yeah, it's very like I don't normally have strong reactions, but that one I remember just being so excited, like holy shit, that was incredible. And that was when like idols, you didn't have such incredible idol plays like that. Reminded me of Russell Hantz basically. At that point, it was like Russell Hantz, and then everyone else was just kind of an echo. And then Kelly came around and really did it even more exciting, in my opinion at least. But I also am like, there are some major flaws that I think sort of plague the show that remind me of why I don't love some parts of these seasons. I hate that we had to lose so much of Keith Nail and Kimmy Kappenberg, and Abby Maria like disappears in the second half of the season. I don't know where that came from after being so heavily featured in the first half. And I'm like, I don't know. I just it sort of like felt very hot and cold at times. Combine that with the abundance of strategy is good. I don't mind strategy. I find it very fascinating. It's the game. I like to watch how they play the game. It's really exciting to watch these players play all out. Up to that point, it was probably the hardest played season ever. These people are playing like their life was on like this. They're not going to get a third chance. That doesn't happen really very often. You have to be huge to get a third chance at that time at least. So yeah, there's a little bit of hot and cold to it, to the storytelling overall. It's a bit janky at times. But overall, I still like it. I still have it in my, top 15. Yeah. Also, Spencer gets too much of a bloated edit. Sorry, again, Spencer's edit. I like Spencer, but like, I'm sorry, he's for a 0 vote finalist. Why is he getting like main character syndrome? Like
he was going from a robot into a human.
Yeah, that's why. There you go.
But he lost. If anything, it should show the opposite. Every episode, literally, like they legitimize his bad losing gameplay, how he doesn't connect to the players, but it doesn't feel like that. And then everyone's confused. It's like Xander. It's like the Xander edit. Like, why did this guy lose? Or at least, why did he get 0 votes? He should have been like 5-5 or 6-4 or something. I kind of was a little bit bumpuzzled by that one too. So, yeah.
Chat. Let us know down below if we got this right or wrong. Survivor Cambodia or Survivor Winners at War. What would you have placed at number 7 and number 6 for? I think what we did here was better for me. I like this one. Yeah. We ranked Cambodia at number 6. Obviously, the RHAP rankings. David versus Goliath at number 6.
Oh wow!
So a little different.
Wow, that's crazy.
How many seasons had they ranked at the time? Were in the
pool? They didn't have 41 and 42.
Okay, all right.
So a little off, but yeah.
That's even more shocking though.
Yeah.
Rapid fire question time. Flynn, we got you, and chat. Make sure you get ready to go. From this new era of Survivor, who is a lock to return with this theme? I want you to pick 3 people. Go.
Rick Devens, Christian, and someone from 41. Probably, I hate to say 3 guys, but Ricard's the first one that comes off the top of my head. 40. Those are the 3 that came off the top of my head. Pretty much anyone from Dave versus Goliath.
Pick one girl. Pick one girl. Come on.
I'm trying to think. Natalie from Dave versus Goliath. I gotta see Natalie. The pre-merge. I watched her pull Wentworth and go far. Oh shit! I knew I was forgetting someone for 41. I was like, who's the girl for 41? It was Ricard's ally. Jeez.
We can't do Marianne. No winners. But yeah.
If
If Angelina's not back on the next returnee season, I'm out. Like, I'm sorry.
She's gonna be too extreme this time, though. I think we can agree on that. It'll be too much.
Yeah, I was thinking Marianne at first, but you can't do winners.
Number 5. This season has 417 points. Comparison, Cambodia, Winners at War, had 391 points. So we had a little jump here again from 7-6 into season number 5. One of the best locations of all time, Survivor China. I ranked this one 7th, Flynn 11th, Ethan 6th, Peridium number 1, and Luke 5th. We have someone ranking this season as the best of all time, so we will start with you, Peridium. Survivor China is the best season of all time. That's insane. Why?
I mean, it had Courtney Yates.
Well,
all right.
Take that answer out of there. Come on, give me something better than that.
Well, that's the best thing you're gonna get. James, Todd, Amanda, the Amanda Kimmel from Survivor China. Not yet on Micronesia, but almost getting there. And then eventually here's Villains. She debuts. You can't not have a better final 3 in the history of the show, I think. That's debatable, but still. I loved the cast. I think if every single cast in history of Survivor was more like Survivor China, we would live in a utopia, as far as I'm concerned. I love the cast. I think it gets so heavily underrated, and I think if you rewatch it and you just don't look so much at the gameplay, I know Flynn, some of the gameplay is a little bit questionable. I think that Todd giving out his idols, I actually think it's a little overrated of a move, but I still love the out of the box thinking of the this is like the 2nd season of these idols ever. So it's cool that he's still doing something that really you don't see ever happen in US Survivor anyway, which is people giving each other their idols, or cross tribal even. That doesn't really happen very often. And Todd was doing it to protect his ally. I love the cast on this season a lot. I think you get some great villains that all have downfalls in one way or another. I will say I hate what happened with Courtney and John Robert. That is the big black spot. And listening to postseason interviews with Courtney, it was worse than it was portrayed on the show. They kind of turned it into a cartoon. I don't love that. I do wish better for her, but at the same time, I love that he gets his comeuppance. We are laughing at him the entire season. He's a buffoon. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's a poker player for a living, and this is the best that we get. It's pretty great, the American immunity idol and whatnot. So Jamie and PG throwing Sudoku, relevant for those of you who watched the challenge, coming back in.
I was loving this season so whatever.
Yeah, well, hey, look, they're the original throwing the Sudoku challenge, so it goes all the way back here. They become such villains, and it's really fun to watch that. And then she has a fake idol play at the merge, even though she knows it's probably not real. I would say Eric going to the final 6 is kind of a weak spot. He's a little bit weak of a character and a player. Underrated dumb move. Votes for PG, I think, at the James Blind side. Shouldn't have done that, but that's okay. And Chicken is the first boot. And you get a guy named Chicken saying, damn, what is going on? And it's China. China is such a cool location. I think it's probably the coolest, the most fascinating to look at. It's a swamp, but bamboo and the whole themes of the challenges, they do a great job. Reminds me of Thailand, but polar opposite as far as outcome of the season goes. And I also really like Todd I liked him a lot on the show. I have one of his bobbleheads behind me of him on his pop shop on Instagram if you want to check him out. I really liked him. I love the super fan. He's gaming hard, and he puts a great cap on the end of the season with his final tribal performance, flattering everyone, telling what they want to hear. I felt very satisfied by the end, and that's all I can ask for. So that's just one of the reasons why I have it at number 1.
That was more than one reason.
Yeah,
we got a little rivalry going on here between Flynnmasters and Peridium.
Yeah.
I like it. Heated debates. Let's go right into you, Flynnmasters. You rank this one the worst out of all of us, 11th overall. give us a little bit. I know I'm saying negative. It's still in your top 11 seasons of all time, but compared to the number 1 season of all time, why is it your number 11?
Well, it's funny because, like I said, I had a lot of positive things to say. So honestly, I just can't. I really have like no negatives to say about this. It's just that the top 10, I like the top 10 better. Like a season like Vanuatu, for example, like most people wouldn't have Vanuatu over China. Why do? Because of Chris's story. Like I love Panama. Like Panama for me is my China to Peridium. That's my all-time favorite cast. So that's why I have that top 5. You know, so it's not necessarily that I don't like China. And you're probably wondering why I have this like so much higher than Tocantins and Pearl Islands. Well, I mean, simply put, that I think the gameplay moves faster, and there's not quite as many duds on this cast as opposed to Pearl Islands and Tocantins. I mean, of course, the first boot chicken, damn, that's just iconic. I saw a comment saying, you knew the season was going to be good at that point. I mean, I was laughing my ass off when I saw that. You have Crazy Dave. You have, you know, say what you will about the tribe swap being terrible, but it's still, it's, you know, give Aaron a second chance. Hey, we talk about second chance. Hey, if you want to go back to get an old school guy, my God, that guy got screwed. And also, how lucky did we get that, you know, due to James's terrible gameplay, he got spared over Aaron. And, you know, that led to an all-time iconic character. So that's always kind of been interesting. And yeah, the merge, again, heavy hand merge, the fake idol play. You have the JR blind side. You know, of course, again, James going home with 2 outs in his pocket. And that final 5, again, that final 5 is so incredible. PG, you know, say what you will about Denise now, but she was a big underdog at the time. Probably the best, one of the best, if not the best final 3. You know, Tyler's really the first person to do what he did. Like, you know, he was playing a villainous game and he owned up to it. And the jury was like, well, I respect you for owning up to that. You know, JR literally said, like, you lie to me, I'm not going to give you my vote. And boom, JR gives him the game winning vote. You know, you can't write any better than that. So, you know, it's just the overall great pace. And yeah, that's why I enjoy it more. Great pace, a lot of better characters, like even the minor characters, or you can call forgettable characters, are fun. I will say, I guess if now I come and think about it, this was Jeff Probst's probably worst moment due to the reunion show and all that stuff. But I
had heard, was that with the Courtney talking to her about the weight and whatnot?
And asking Eric.
Asked Eric if he's still
about
virgin.
the virginity, yeah. I had heard that because it was publicized, like they had mentioned that they would bring it up at the reunion so that she could comment on it. So it wasn't going to go ignored. I don't know if that's how much truth there is to that, but that's what I've heard about it. But of course, maybe the way Jeff says it could have been better. I don't know.
Yeah, it was on like every like I don't know, like Entertainment Tonight and stuff. They were, you know, like they were constantly like talking about Courtney's weight and speculating on if she had an eating disorder and just like incredibly inappropriate stuff for, you know, and anyone to do. Yeah.
And I want to say, like, Courtney is legitimately one of my favorite characters, players. I consider them the same, just humans to play Survivor. I love when a player does not take the show seriously, but also is like one vote away from possibly winning the game. Probably doesn't if it's tied, because then I imagine Amanda probably gives it to Todd. But still, you can dream. Maybe 2 votes flip her away. I love that. Like, who of all people would think that Courtney is like a potential winner on this season, and she could have won. I enjoy there's something about like not taking the show too seriously I really like, and she's one of the only people who does it, and she does it well, and she's entertaining. So I have a very soft spot for her. I really like her, and it's a massive flaw that Heroes versus Villains under edits her so much, in my opinion.
A big character and a future 3-time Survivor All-Star. We haven't talked about too much. Amanda Kimmel, the crazy downfall, final tribal council happens a couple times. But Ethan, can you talk a little bit about Amanda Kimmel's game here? Did you like her playing Survivor? Is she an all-time legend for you?
Oh, see, that's an interesting question. I mean, I don't think I can not say that Amanda is a legend of Survivor. However, her fatal flaw is one of the more unfortunate ones because it really makes winning a very hard thing for her to do. Not being able to close the deal at the final hour is really, I mean, like, it's the worst thing that you could have. Well, there's many worse things that you could have. I take that back. But, I mean, overall, her and Todd are very strategically one step ahead of a lot of these players throughout the season. I don't necessarily remember the exact specifics, but I know when the twist, or where in the pre-merge, the tribes swap players across. Instantly, or pretty instantly, they figure out how to game it. They're like, okay, we need to lose now in order to have the numbers going into the merge. Which I also think, just as someone that is obviously a Big Brother fan, I do take a lot of enjoyment whenever a new twist is out there. Like, oh, how are the players going to game it? So to watch, 15 years ago, as soon as a twist happens in Survivor, they're instantly starting to game it, was just something that I really enjoyed watching on the season as well. And then back to Amanda, going into the final tribal, I was not spoiled on who won this when I went back and rewatched. It was actually the first season I went back and rewatched after, I think, after like my second season. I went back and I was like, oh, this looks like a good one. And this really was a good one for me to go back and watch. And I was like, it could go either Amanda or Todd. And then after the final tribal, I'm like, yeah, I don't think Amanda is going to end up winning this. And I was right, but I'm glad that we got to see her come back the next season and then a couple of seasons later. So I'm an Amanda Kimmel enjoyer.
I mean, Russell Hand said that the player he feared the most in Heroes Villains was Amanda Kimmel. Take that for what you want.
Yeah, that's honestly such a top-heavy cast. That is a pretty solid statement to be making there.
Yeah, Russell Hand shaking his boots.
I want to close out Survivor China. Luke, what are your closing thoughts on this season?
Yeah, I mean, like what Prettium said, I mean, this cast top to bottom is just great. For me, like, it was kind of, and I think for a lot of Survivor fans, like at the time too, it was kind of like a breath of fresh air, because from Vanuatu to Fiji, we're kind of a series of very top-heavy casts. We might disagree, but I think like the general consensus was that Survivor was leaning more into like bigger characters and like under editing a bunch of people. And, there were a lot of like forgettable players in, that era. And then China comes along and just like every single person is memorable. Like, I don't know, just, it was a cast that I think really renewed interest in the show. And then, I don't know, just on top of that, everything else about it is great. Yeah, Amanda in a season guarantees at top 5. She is, she's the secret sauce, I guess. I don't know. But
she is.
Yeah, just amazing season. I wish this one was in HD. It's a travesty it's not, because like beautiful location too. So yeah, just
okay. The RHAP rankings and our Survivor YouTuber season rankings, guess what? It's the exact same again. Survivor China, RHAP, and the YouTubers ranked this season number 5 overall. And now for the rapid fire question, we have you, Ethan. One of the most talked about questions, especially, around the time of Survivor Ghost Island, I guess. Chat, get ready for this. Is James going home with 2 idols in his pocket the dumbest move of all time? Simple yes or no.
No.
Okay, there you go. Chat, what do you think? You say no. China's my fave.
Flynn, what do you
no,
think?
No.
Oh, I'll save that for the next season. We talk about what I think the dumbest move is. I think everyone agrees. I think we all know the dumbest move is.
Yeah, there we go. Before we get to the next season, time for the Survivor Buff giveaway, everybody. Survivor Buff giveaway. Let me share my screen. Window, giveaway tool, share. As always, Survivor Buff giveaway. We're going to get the keyword in now. At the very end of the stream, we'll do a little circle to see who wins. Flynn, I'm going to let you pick what buff we're giving away today. We got the Survivor 41 or the Survivor 42 merge buff. Which one are we giving away?
Oh, you see, I thought we were going to do, I thought it was going to be the pre-merge buff from 42. So I thought we were going to do that one yet done yet. We'll do the, I got to do the 42. The purple is rare. I feel more rare than red. Yeah,
Boom.
the 42, the purple.
42.
And that's the logo you use, so you know what? Might as well.
The keyword is buff. Double buff, guys. All caps, so BUFF, BUFF. And then I got to do a hashtag as well. Hashtag BUFF, all caps. Click that in to enter for the buff giveaway. We'll come back to that at the very end of the stream. Stop sharing. Boom. Buff. We have 1 entry so far, so make sure you put that there in chat. Buff. Okay. Now moving on. Top 4.
Home stretch, boys.
This season has 439 points. A lot of people's favorite season of all time. The second time we did half, I guess, returning, we got Survivor Micronesia. I ranked this one 4th, Flynn 1st, ooh. Ethan 5th, Peridium 2nd, Idled Out 6th, and the Survivor Geek ranked this as the very best season of all time. Like I said at the very top of the stream, the Survivor Geek was supposed to be here tonight. Unfortunately, some last minute things, he couldn't make it, but he sent in a video for us to watch of him talking about the season. So at 3 minutes long, we're going to see what he thinks about Survivor Micronesia, and then we'll come back to this panel. So enjoy this video from the Survivor Geek.
Hey everyone, it's Survivor Geek. Unfortunately, I was not able to attend the podcast in person, so we made arrangements for me to do this video. This was super hard for me to rank the different seasons because, as some of you might know, I'm a huge Survivor fan, and it's kind of like me trying to pick which one of my kids is my favorite. You know who you are. Even the very worst Survivor season is a season that I would love to watch more than anything else on TV. And so as I was going through and putting them in the order, it was hard for me to say, yeah, this is my favorite one, because really I have a lot of favorites, and even the ones that ended up at the bottom of my list, it was hard to put them down there because I still think it's great TV. I was asked specifically to talk a little bit about why I put Micronesia as my #1 choice. There's really a lot to it. One of my favorite things about Survivor is the surprise aspect of it. When I first watched Parvati on Cook Islands, I was like, man, this girl is a mess. There's no way she's ever going to do anything. And part of the reason that I came to like her so much is because I like to be proven wrong. I like when the show surprises me. And so Parvati was a perfect example of one of those people that just did not click with me at all. But then by the end of Cook Islands, I was like, wow, she actually is really good at this game. And then come Micronesia, I was just absolutely impressed with the change that she had made, how she was able to overcome not only all the other players in the game, but ultimately be able to be on the top of the Black Widow Brigade, which was absolutely impressive, because you think of the caliber of players that ended up at the end of that game. You've got Suri, you've got Amanda, and Natalie is one of those players that I would just love to see back on the show. I can't believe how well she was able to compete with those amazing second-time players. Micronesia was just one of those seasons that pleasantly surprised me, and Parvati in specific. At the same time, you've got, bless his heart, Eric making the biggest bonehead mistake in all of Survivor history, and he's still trying to live that down. I watch him on Twitter. People are still giving him a hard time about that all the time, that him giving away that immunity idol is still something that he's trying to live down. You know, whether you're a fan of just the brute strength of James, or whether you Ozzy as being kind of the face of Survivor for a long time. And we gotta love when Chet gets his head slammed into the wood. Says, yeah, hit my head back there. Yeah, I don't care. Once again, it was hard to decide which one to put at the top because I love so many of them. I could have easily put in heroes versus villains at that spot. A lot of people won't understand, but I would love to put at the top. The very first season I ever watched was One World. I know there's not a lot of love for that season other than Kim is a great winner. Lots to love about Micronesia, a lot to love about Survivor in general. I'm glad to be a part of this calibration where so many great YouTubers are coming together and sharing ideas, and I love how we've been able to bring the community together and work on this. So thanks everyone that's allowed me to participate, and yeah, I'll give the time back to you guys.
And we're back. Thank you, Survivor Geek, for sending in that video. That was awesome. Before we get going talking about Survivor Micronesia, I just want to say, let's go, Kid M. Thank you so much for the $6.99 dono. Everyone in chat, please say thank you to Miss Go Kid. That is completely awesome. Anyways, back to Survivor Micronesia. I think we can all agree we're pretty all in unison here. This is an awesome season of Survivor. I want to play a little game. We're all going to say what our favorite moment of this season is. However, you cannot say the same moment from someone else. So we're going to go down the list. I'm sorry. So it's going to be, just so you're ready, I'm going to go first. And then it's going to be Luke, Ethan, Flynn, and Peridium. So we're going to go through that list. I'm going to go first here and say the Eliza stick moment. That moment is completely awesome. Survivor, Legacy, great moment. Luke, you're next.
I hit my head back there. I don't care. I know.
Yeah.
Mine's gonna be the editing of not showing that Amanda found the idol and finding out at Tribal. I thought that was really cool, and I think if they I'm really happy that they don't do that more, because then I would get really sick of it. But just doing it that one time, catching me off guard, really did it well.
Flynn.
The true dumbest move in Survivor history, Eric giving up his immunity.
Yeah. And Podium.
Yeah, you guys just took like all the greatest hits. I mean, I will say one of my favorite winners. I'll just say Parvati Shala winning. I loved it. So I'll put that in there. The winner crowning. It's not often I'm like, love the winner of the season, but I loved Parvati winning.
That should tell you how iconic the season is. We didn't even think of the Aussie blindside.
Yeah, I considered saying that, but you know.
But still, there's so many great moments from the season.
Okay, now I'm taking a little more of a deep dive. I thought that would be fun with all the iconic moments of the season. Flynn, we'll start with you, ranking this season as your first best season of all time. Finally getting to something positive that you like. Why?
You guys are on my ass about these older. Well, okay, and you know, we'll start with some. I can understand why this season wouldn't be number one. You know, especially for me personally, seeing Sari, you know, get screwed due to the final 2 twist. Oh, that's so terrible. It would have been like apparently like a 3-2 Sari victory. Boy, that would have been epic. Huge Yao Man fan. Seeing him go home third episode, no confessionals. That's brutal. Seeing Johnny Fairplay quit after, you know, I never watched him in Pro Island, so I was so excited to see him here. You know, all that's tough. Their pre-merge is kind of slow at points, I get. But man, that post-merge is not like the best Survivor ever. Probably like some of the best television ever. I mean, like Randy said himself in Heroes vs. Villains, this stuff goes back to the caveman days of all these just attractive women just taking advantage of these men back and forth. And it never, ever slows up. I mean, again, we just talked about all these amazing moments that just stick. The Ozzy blindside, the Jason blindside. That's another one we didn't think about. After he's literally the target the previous round, they somehow convince him he's safe. He doesn't play his idol. That's just crazy. Amanda's idol play. You have Eric going on with giving up his immunity. Of course, the dumbest move in Survivor history. And I always, you know, the aside from Sarigan screwed, I think people are always kind of down to pre-merge. You know, for me personally, I've always been I always liked this pre-merge more than most. You have the whole Joel and Mikey rivalry, who's going to be the alpha male on the fans tribe. That's pretty fun. Of course, the iconic Joel and Chet challenge. Hit my head back there. I don't care. You also have arguably probably the most dominant pre-merge player of all time on the season in Tracy, who, had it not been for the Chet quit, could have possibly taken out Ozzy there and dominated the season at that point with the likes of Amy and Eric. You know, that would have been interesting to see. So, you know, but honestly, to be honest, we could have had a Caramoan level of pre-merge here. It doesn't matter. That post-merge is insane. Some of the best television ever, not just Survivor, some of the best television ever. You cannot make this stuff up that you're watching. Insane. Will always be number one. Yeah, emphatic statement there.
We got another donation from Kush Picasso, $9.99. Thank you so much for that donation. Everyone say thank you in chat to Kush. Thank you for that dono. Purdian, we're gonna go to you next. You talked about the Parvati winning is an awesome moment. Mm-hmm. Can you go a little more detail about that? Her cycle getting there to that end, even from Cook Islands, maybe people questioning her being a favorite here and now being one of the biggest Survivor players ever.
I mean, she's possibly like on the
Mount Rushmore.
One of the most iconic Mount Rushmore Survivor. Yeah. She's often whispered throughout every season. You know, she's a
Parvati 2.0.
Is this the new Parvati? Oh my God. It's like, guys, that was like 30 seasons ago at this point. Like, but at the same time, like there is something to that legacy and playing probably like Flynn was saying, this is such a strong stretch of Survivor, not just gameplay, but of episodes, and it's reverberated throughout the history of the show to the point where the Black Widow Brigade is arguably the most iconic, other than maybe the Tagis or something, or the I2s. So yeah, Parvati winning was incredible. She's not a favorite going into this by any stretch of the imagination. She wasn't one of my favorites. I watched this season. She wasn't one of my favorites going in. I walked away from it excited, so excited for her journey to get to that point. And it's really not just Parvati. It is her alliance that I was rooting for. It was watching as the women came together just because they were just really good friends with each other. Like, I see a lot of people say, like, you know, there aren't that many all-female alliances in the history of the show that didn't start on female tribes. But like the women in this tribe just happened to all click, and it just so happened that the men were all the biggest threats, and they all happened to have this like smorgasbord of an alliance with Parvati and Amanda and James and Ozzy. And James and Ozzy are James and Ozzy. Like James got voted out with 2 idols, and Ozzy's, you know, he throwing challenges in episode 2, and you know, he's Ozzy. Nobody really looks to him
But it
as
was
a
Billy.
strategic. Yeah, well, mastermind Billy got him out early.
There you go.
Something like that. So I think it was just really fun to watch these players come together and do what they did. Parvati's a part of that, learning more about the season behind the scenes, learning that there's more to the gameplay that we didn't see, how Amanda was actually involved a lot more. I love that for them. I think that's incredible. It elevates it. I do wish Sari could have been in that final tribal. I think it would have been the most debatable up for grabs final tribal in the history of the show, barring China, where we had all the players get votes. So it did unfortunately end with that, which is sort of a mixed bag, because I also really was hoping Sari could have won or done really well, got a chance at least, and I do think she would have won at the end of the day. I do think Parvati probably loses that, but it's close. We're looking at like a 3-2-2, and that's just in an era where it's like 10-0 every season. To see a 3-2-2 and have the jurors like confirm that postseason, it would have probably been a 3-2-2. And we don't know for sure it would have been in Sari's favor, but it probably would have been. It's wild. That's just wild. And then of course Parvati comes back, 4 seasons later. She is who she is. I've always enjoyed the ruthless, cutthroat, underestimated player who shows up in the shadows and takes out the biggest threats. The Aussie blindside. James unfortunately has to go when he has to go, taking out Jason, who's so cocky with an idol. He is like the prince that was promised, and he gets completely bamboozled. It's amazing. On top of the stick, obviously. Alexis, the Alexis blindside is fantastic. Yep. And this is all coming from Parvati's dynamic gameplay. And Amanda and Sari, but it really is like Amanda and Parvati's friendship is like the core of this season, and it ends with them at the final 2. So yeah, I love it. And then that doesn't even cover the pre-merge, which I think is also quite underrated personally. Yeah. So people are like, oh, it's 10 episodes and it's full of fans, and it's like, who are these people? And I'm like, if you actually watch the episode, like there's a lot that goes on, and they're all pretty entertaining, barring maybe the Kathy medevac and losing Jonathan sucked. But yeah, I love it.
You talked about the blind side, perfecting the art of the blind side. I have my notes as the best moments of the season, just blind side after blind side after blind side. Ethan, can you touch on that a little bit and these big tribal council moments, episode after episode this season?
I mean, like, where do you even start? Ozzy. I mean, I could just like picture just like his hands like going through his hair, like realizing like, oh, he messed up, getting voted out. I mean, obviously you got Jason, you got his stick. That's just really funny. And the biggest one of all, Eric giving up immunity. That is, I mean, constantly on my Twitter timeline, because I follow Eric on Twitter, it's just people tweeting at him like about the season, and him being like him either like toying around where it's like, oh, wait till you get to the end, like, oh, I'm hoping Eric does good, and he's just like messing around with him. But like the fact that even happened, that's one of those things where Survivor would edit it today, where it'd be like, oh, going into the vote, like, are they going to do this to make, trying to build some suspense for an obvious vote that's about to happen. But the fact that it really happened, and that he actually gave them the necklace, and they're just like snickering, they're laughing at him. And like, they're all happening like episode after episode after episode. I touched upon before, going into the final 6 tribal, we don't know if Amanda finds the idol until she plays it. And her saying like, when I told you I didn't have it then, I wasn't lying, but I have it now. Going like swinging the idol around as she's walking up. Like it is just perfection, time after time after time. And there's so few things. Like I have this ranked at my number 5. So I'm obviously like very high on the season. And really the only things that take away from it for me is the fact that there are 4 people that are either like medevac or quit or whatever Johnny Fairplay did, just basically asking to go home. And the fact that what could have been if there was just a final 3, if they just kept it like that, having the most dynamic final tribal probably we would ever have. The fact that Survivor China probably is the closest we're going to get to like 3 contenders all getting votes, and it was a 4-2-1, and there could have been a 3-2-2 is ridiculous. It's such a missed opportunity that I get. Like, they did what they wanted to do. I'm not going to dog on the producers, but it's just the biggest what if that I would have loved to see.
Like James is literally like the most on paper, probably one of the most physically fit people to ever be on the show, and him getting injured cost Suri the game. That sums up Suri's luck in the Survivor right there. Yeah,
Luke,
you can't make that stuff up.
I know you guys keep getting mad at me when I say the word hate or the worst, and make no mistake about it. Number 6 best of all time is a really good ranking for a season, but you did rank this season the worst out of everyone here. Not the worst. It's not a bad season, but you weren't ranked it the worst out of all of us. I want to know a little bit what's going on in that brain of yours, why that is.
Why do you hate it so much?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
That's
I did
all
rank
that.
this 42nd. So, yeah, I mean, this is just, I mean, if I would have done these rankings on a different day, it could have been 2 spots higher or something. Just like what Ethan said, the medevacs and the fair play quit and the, those kind of take away from it a little bit for me. I think, some of the fans aren't like super dynamic, but I mean, these are really nitpicky things. I mean, I actually agree with what Prettium said, is that I see a lot like on Reddit and stuff of people saying that this pre-merge is like really slow or boring, or this is like always on those lists that are like
And you agree
bad
with all of them.
pre-merge, good post-merge. And I'm like, really? Like, I don't know. I think the pre-merge is like pretty interesting. Joel's like contentious rivalries that he just makes up out of his head with Mikey B, and then Chet is great. The like Amy vote is like a really sad, I like genuinely like an emotional vote. I just think, I mean, for me, not a lot to dislike. It's just we're talking like 1 or 2 degrees below where you guys are, so I think it's a pretty good season of TV.
I think like they blindside Mary, they blindside Mikey B. There's a lot of great gameplay with Tracy, really orchestrating it, using Joel as a puppet, which is really fun to see, because he originally orchestrates the Mary blindside, and you're thinking he's the front runner, but then you realize he's being controlled kind of in the background. So this is what leads to Tracy being this underrated pre-merge character. You get the swap with Joel versus Chet, and it's like Joel goes first. That's quite ridiculous, and it's great because it's really fun TV. It's really one of the funniest moments. It's just the blind. I think the medevacs are what it sets it down a little. Unfortunately, not bad enough for me, because we get plenty of Jonathan Penner in other seasons, so it's okay. Like, I'm all right. But yeah.
Once again, we ranked this season number 4. RHAP number 4. We're kind of spot on for these last few rankings. It's kind of crazy. Rapid fire question time. Check, get ready to go. Prettium, you as well. I asked the same question when we talked about Survivor Caramoan. Fans versus favorites. Is this a theme that we should ever see again? Do you want to see it again?
Is that for me?
Yeah, for you. Sorry.
Oh yeah. I'm kind of mixed on it. I think, at the end of the day, like, it's more Survivor, so I'll take it if it comes back. I'm not going to complain. I really think it is somewhat dependent on who they cast, because you saw it on Caramoan and it really wasn't that magical, I felt like. But I also think that Caramoan was a bit of a symptom of the casting, and Probst took over, and this was like his first All-Star-esque with him as the front runner versus Micronesia. Also, maybe Micronesia was just a flash in the pan. Maybe it would be awful again. I don't know if you're going to get that ever again. Probably not. The odds of it happening are probably pretty low, because it's only really happened like that once a couple times. I would honestly be completely fine if we never got Fans versus Favorites 3. I don't think it's a great twist overall. I think it's very uneven. It's ridiculous to have playing Survivor for the second time is nothing, from what I've heard, it's nothing like playing for the first time. And it shows both times back to back. It's very obvious too. And I would hate to be on Survivor for the first time on a Fans versus Favorites. As a fan, personally, I don't think I would love that, even though it's like I am a super fan, and I think we all would love to be on the fan tribe at the end of the day. We'll take what we can get. But man, just imagine coming back and it's like, I got to vote Christian out and Angelina, and I got to ruin their second chances. And I would rather just go on with a bunch of nobodies and we're just creating our own path, our own legacy. And it's also just so imbalanced. It's an imbalanced twist. It's like the haves have nots almost, but it's for knowledge instead of tangible items. So,
which is almost worse. Yeah.
Yeah.
We are now down to the top 3 Survivor seasons of all time. If you're not paying attention, our top 3 we have, not in order. I just want to tell you the seasons we have left. So again, this is not in order. We have Survivor Cagayan, Survivor David versus Goliath, and Survivor Heroes versus Villains. Those are our top 3 seasons in some random order. You'll find out what that is soon. At number 3, 440 points. Many fans would argue this is the best season of all time. That's me. I'm the fans. I think this is the best season of all time. We have Survivor David versus Goliath. I have it at number 1, Flynn at number 4, Ethan at number 3, Peridium number 9, and then Idled Out number 3. So that's all getting up on Peridium here. I rank this season the best season of all time, and I think this is how you do the new era of Survivor the best way. It works out the best way. I think the only thing you can have, the only knock against it could be the David versus Goliath twist as a whole and how that could have gone extremely bad, especially with the underdogs versus these favorites in a sense. It's easy to cheer for these underdogs, and if an underdog doesn't win, that could be not so good. But we have Ethan, you ranked the season as well, number 3 overall. I'd love to hear all the amazing things about this best season of all time.
Yeah, so kind of like overarching, what I was saying about Second Chances is that Second Chances was extremely chaotic, and sometimes I didn't know why some things were happening. David versus Goliath was very chaotic, but I knew why they were happening. They were telling the story in a way that I could follow along and be like, wow, that was awesome. And it made sense because they were telling me why it happened. So I think that's a huge boost in the positive direction for David versus Goliath. I think the back-to-back episodes of the John Hennigan boot and then the Dan Idol Nullifier getting voted out are two of the, I hate to just keep saying chaotic, but the greatest chaotic back-to-back tribals where it's whoa. First time we see a minority split the vote. And then, I'm not the biggest fan of introducing twists that nobody else has any idea even exists. So with the Idol Nullifier being in, yeah, I do think that's kind of not. Survivor's not a game that's fair.
I bet you hate the Hourglass.
I'm not the biggest fan of the Hourglass. I would be very honest about that. But I think for Dan, it's not very fair. But also at the time, there are so many great characters where it's okay, Dan probably Dan was a good character. He was fine, but everyone was a great character. So to see Dan have 2 idols and then both of them end up being wasted in back-to-back episodes and he's somehow voted out, I was okay, that's a storyline that is very interesting. And I can get behind it a little bit. It's just again, there's so many good people. Every single person on this cast for the most part could come back and I'd be yeah, that makes sense. And I'm probably going to root for you. It's very, I can't even call it top heavy. It's just heavy with every great person. I was thinking it was top heavy, but I was more so thinking there's 16 great people.
What does bottom heavy mean? Is there an opposite to top heavy?
Bottom heavy.
Yeah. One world.
Is that is that Game Changers? I don't know. Anyway.
Game Changers is an awesome season. Anyway, Ethan, you ranked it right at the average, 3rd. It came 3rd. We'll jump to you, Luke. Next, you ranked this season right at the average as well, 3rd. The season does so much right. Tell me about a few of those things.
It comes down to the cast for me. Just amazing cast. I really like the theme. I think it's wild to me that this theme came after Heroes versus Healers versus Hustlers. They, I guess, wanted to run with that before they wanted to run with this. Sure. But yeah, it's all down to the cast for me. I don't think there's a single miss on this cast. Everyone comes to play. Everyone's an interesting character. The cast is really dynamic. It was fun watching their interactions. So yeah, just great cast, great boot order. Great final three. They all had cases to make. So yeah, no notes here.
For the worst thing about this season, I literally put in my notes nothing. So Flynn, I want you to bounce off that. What's so much good stuff to love about this season? Tell me more. I love this season.
Yeah, okay. I thought you were gonna ask me what's some negative. I really have
no.
not much negative to say about this. I mean, like Ethan said, like that's a good way to put it. It's like I can't really. The only duds I would really consider are Jessica and B got evacuated, right? Like even your pre-merge characters that, such as, of course, you have your Natalies and Natalias of the world, who are of course amazing pre-merge characters. But even like the Jeremys of the world and Lirsas, you know, they have their fun little arc. I think that's the thing. Everyone has a story this season. Everyone's memorable in some way. Again, even like the Carls and Allisons, who are a little under-edited in the post-merge, they still have their big storylines when the time comes to them and add a lot to this season. So everyone here is here to play. Everyone here is a big character. Everyone's here to play hard. We've already talked about, you know, the amazing moves this season. Again, even though it's modern season and, you know, there's some advantages, say what you will about the Idle Nullifier. I don't think the advantages get too in the way where still the flow goes really well. Ethan, like you said, you still understand what's going on without being super confused. So yeah, you know, you can't ask much more than that. Good flow, a satisfying winner too, and Nick the guy underdog come out on top. Great cast, great gameplay. You can't ask much more for a Survivor season than David versus Goliath.
Prettium, you ranked this one ninth. That's tough. That's really tough for me. Still in your top 10, we're talking about the top 10 best seasons of all time. So still, that's fine. I want you to try and be a little more critical on this season. Try to be a little tougher. Is there anything that doesn't work? Maybe we have a quit in the pre-merge that for Pat leaving early. Do you not like that? Is there anything to not like about this season? I guess I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think the Idle Nullifier is garbage. I think a turning point should not be hinged solely on an advantage. I think that's I find that to be a bit of a weak turn. I didn't love it when it first happened and everyone was cheering and I was like, yay, Dan's gone, but I don't know if this is the best thing in the world because I fear that this twist is going to set a questionable precedent for like what the quality of a flip existing in the franchise or the show is contingent upon. If it's about the underdogs all finding their island trinkets, all of a sudden it sort of doesn't feel like Survivor, it's Mario Party and they just happen to get the right power-ups and they all work. And I love it on some level because it's kind of unique. All of our favorites are all coming together. They're the underdogs and they all have like double votes and idols. And he's like, and I got this idol. And you're like, what? And I got this advantage. And you're like, what? I think that's fun. But the reason why it's not higher is a little bit of that combined with the theme. I really don't think it's that good. I think it's sort of like fans versus favorites. I'm a big fan of the story and the narrative. And when they immediately set out and they're like, these are the people you're rooting for and you guys, you better not win. Because, I mean, you will win and we'll try and make it respectable if you're Mike White or whatever, because he was overall an overdog. But I don't love the idea of like, everyone should be on equal playing field. They're all first timers. And interestingly enough, like a Christian reached out to me about that and said that the underdog, the David spoke about this during the season and they didn't like it either. And they were very put off by it. And they really wish there was any other theme because it set this weird, like, what does it mean to be the David? And they have to now fill those shoes. And now they're like immediately on the back pedal because they have to like, we're not the underdogs. You're supposed to root for the underdogs. Don't look at us like that. And it does sort of carry on throughout the whole season. I do think overall it's a really good season. I actually probably did underrate it a little bit now that I'm looking at the top 8 that I put above it. Because like every episode is good for the most part. Like there are some minor flaws, but overall I think everything is great. The cast is very strong. This is not a top heavy cast. This is a very strong cast across the board. I kind of wish I wasn't rooting for Nick as much as ever the average person. I feel like he's okay. I just was like, for the characters, a little whiny at times, could have been better. I wish I would have rather had Mike White, or I know Nick's a super fan. He may even watch this. If anyone's going to watch it, it's probably him. I'm sorry. But like, this is how I felt at the time. I was hoping for maybe somebody else to win. Allison gets purpled a little bit at the end. Could have been better, but Again, these are minor things in some. I just didn't like the idle nullifier. I really thought that was going to be a problem, and then we saw
And
it
it
come
is.
back 2 seasons later, and it was a problem. And I'm like, oh, here we go. I hope we. And then we saw it come back for Winners at War, and it was a complete nothing burger. But
Yeah.
it's such a like if you have too many twists, and you now have twists to cancel twists, why don't you just not have twists? It's better. They just are like, well, throw things
TV.
at the wall and see what
Yeah.
sticks, and then see if we can spin it to make it exciting. And that is sort of the feeling I get with the middle of David versus Goliath. And so that feeling is difficult because it feels like a lot of modern seasons have that prerogative with all the advantages. And we all hate that there's too many advantages, and I feel like David Goliath has a little bit of that happening. So that's why it kind of goes down. None of my other seasons above it are in that era of the show. Yeah, I'm looking at them right now. My top 8 they're not close to David Goliath chronologically. So
Yeah.
that's me.
We ranked it David versus Goliath at number 3. RHAP ranked Pearl Islands at number 3. So a little interesting there. They like that old school vibe to it.
I ruined it.
Rapid fire question here. Chat in for you, Luke. Idle out. Prettium kind of touched on this a little bit. Stealing my thunder for a couple of these rapid fire questions. Is this season looked at differently and almost in a more negative sense if a Goliath ends up winning? Does it hurt the story of the season if a Goliath wins in the end?
I guess it depends on the Goliath. I think if you're looking at the Goliaths at the end, like Mike White and Angelina, I mean, they pre-merge literally call themselves like the Davids of the Goliaths. So I still think you can have that like satisfying underdog story, that underdog victory. I think if someone obviously things would be presented completely differently if a Goliath won, but we're conditioned to think, to root for the Davids at the start. But if a Goliath ended up on top, they would present the story in a way that it makes sense and is satisfying. So I don't think it would affect it too much. But yeah.
Okay.
I think we would probably respect it a lot to the point where it's like, whatever.
Yeah.
Who
Like
cares
Mike
about
White
this?
is a lot of people say Mike White should have won. I think that's, or that he's one of the best runners up in the games ever seen. I mean, I would agree that he was a great player, and I mean, he would have been a completely satisfying victor. So yeah.
Time for the top 2. The moment you've all been waiting for. We know what's coming. It's either going to be heroes versus villains or Kagayan. And the impossible happened. David versus Goliath got 440 points. Well, top 1 and number 2, they tied at 480 points. Somehow averaging out every single one of these YouTubers, these content creators, season rankings together. They're all different, but somehow in the end, the average heroes versus villains and Kagayan came in at the same exact score, 480 points. As we all know, how we choose a tie, how we choose the winner was my Survivor tournament. Whatever season did better. Well, one season won the tournament and one season came fourth. The season that came fourth in my Survivor tournament, Survivor Kagayan. So our second best season of all time, determined by the Survivor YouTubers, is Survivor Kagayan. Personally, I rank this season as the third, Flynn third, Ethan first, Prettium third, and Idle out second. So we all agree this is a top 3 season, which is insane. We're all pretty much in unison here. We'll start with you, Ethan. Your favorite season of all time. I'm guessing you have so much to love about it, so let me hear it.
I mean, basically everything I said about David versus Goliath, I'm going to say again right here, except that we've gotten to see a lot of these players come back and like dominate on returning seasons, for better or for worse in some cases. But just the level of play from some of these players is ridiculous. I mean, you have Sarah, who I think is like a top 5 player of all time, getting sniped out because she's playing a little bit too cocky at the jury vote, the merge vote. I'm sorry, I kept messing that up. But the fact that right at the beginning, you're going in, it's 6 versus 5. Who's it going to be? And then all of a sudden, it's flipped on the person who thinks they're the swing vote, setting off the jury stage to be absolutely ridiculous. Not to mention that the beginning of the season is also super good. You have the Brains tribe just absolutely crumbling. You've got Jatia throwing the rice and spill that out. You've got Spencer just like not even being able to contain his total lack of any good emotion with this tribe, losing time after time after time, and then finally seeing them win a challenge was a really nice moment to see. You have just, I mean, every single episode, once the merge hits, is ridiculous. You have Tony just looking for any reason. It's like, okay, I need to get LJ out. How do I do this? Okay, LJ just convinces LJ to just say one thing. Perfect. I can use that and go rat him out. You're voted out. You're voted out. It is again, I don't want to say top heavy because everyone is so good, but even with everybody being so good on this cast, there are still people that step above the rest. Tony is one of the greatest characters of Survivor history. And the fact that he wins and then he wins like this person wins twice is it's a fairy tale. I don't know how else to
He's a
describe
llama.
it.
He's a unicorn.
He's a llama.
It's good TV is what it is.
He's like nobody ever before him, and he does that numerous times. But this is just about Kagayan. And the final tribal, Trish to Tony is so like powerfully like. I'm not even knowing how to like express how to say it because it's so crazy how much she tears into him, and then Tony just has to sit there with a straight face, trying to make excuses. She's not having any of it, and then he's like, "Yes, it is worth it." And then she votes for him to win, and then I don't know. It's crazy start to finish. Having a final two, I really do think this is one of those times. Well, I like the final two, but this was a really good time for them to bring a final two into the mix. There's really no duds on this cast. I could talk about this forever. I'm going to keep sounding like Tony if I'm talking just gibberish coming out.
Okay, well, yeah, awesome. Flynn, it looks like you want to say something. Kagayan, you talked about this season as the third best of all time. We all did it within our top 3. But for you personally, tell me something to love about this season.
Well, like I said, I really have nothing else to add. I mean, it's a great cast. And again, like Ethan said, same thing with Dave versus Goliath. I can't really think of one dud this season. The only person that maybe is a dud is Alexis, and she's always on second chance ballots as one to be another Kelly Wentworth. So I mean, they all add something to the season. Great gameplay. I guess the one thing that puts it over Dave versus Goliath for me is the fact that Tony wins, and the fact that they don't hide his edit. You know, they show his antics. You know, his arguments with
But it's just so hard to believe it. You know.
Yeah, at the time, fun fact, like going into finale, like apparently Edgic had him as like the least likely to win at that point because he was so over the top. That was so rare. But the editors knew, hey, they had an all-time classic character winner, and they didn't hide that. And I so appreciate, that they showed Tony for what it is. And boy, is he again literally a top 5 character. So that's another thing too. With due to COVID and whatnot, got a lot of fans into Survivor these top 2 seasons both. So yeah, not really much to say. Iconic season, we've all said it. Yeah. Amazing season.
It's wild. Netflix put like arguably the top 2 seasons first. I'm like, hey, it's a great way to get people involved, but at the same time, if those are the top 2, you're starting at the ceiling and going down. So oh well.
Luke, we'll go to you next. Yeah. So many great characters from this season. I mean, you got Spencer. Cass is awesome. Wu, you got Wu going Sonic the Hedgehog style, running through the jungle. Tony, my opinion, the best winner of all time, the best player of all time. What from this amazing group of characters, if you had to pick one to be your favorite, who is your favorite player from this season?
I mean, should we like ask this question like without Tony in the mix?
Sure, without Tony.
I gotta go with Jatia or Cass. I think. I mean, obviously not from like a gameplay perspective, but just as like TV characters that are like extremely entertaining. Jatia and Cass deliver unlike anyone else in this season other than Tony. I mean, they are just so super entertaining. Like I tell people, like, if you want to get into Survivor, like the first episode of Kagayan is the one to watch. Obviously Netflix agrees because that, like, it benefits from being a double boot, but like that, you know, that second Brains Tribal Council where by all logic, Jatia should go. Like, she's horrible in the challenges. She threw the rice in the fire when she learned she was going to get voted out. And then they somehow decide to vote out their like biggest, strongest guy. Is like, if you don't like if you're a new fan or you're watching Survivor for the first time and you're not into the show from that, like, you're just not going to like Survivor. I think it's, just an amazing season. And Cass and Jatia, to go back to your original question, are the best. I would love to see them both back every season.
And to close out Survivor Cagayan, Peridium, I'd love to hear some of your thought about this season being number 3.
I think it's every episode is good. I think every episode is fun. It's hard for me to deny. Like, I wouldn't want to. I sit down and there are every season, even my favorite seasons the 2 I put above it. You know, there are times where some down slower episodes, but I'm like, Cagayan, even in the swap, is great. There's really just it's pedal to metal the entire way. Largely, again, thanks to Tony, but I also think this has a great cast all over the board. I'm a big fan of Wu. I really liked Wu. I was rooting for Wu. I thought Wu was going to win. Believe it or not, we're talking 10 years ago now. I don't know if I think that today, but I thought Wu had it in the bag. And then he did the exact opposite of what I thought he should have done. But I still thought he could have won. I was thinking he's still going to, and then they showed his vote at the live reunion. I was like, okay. And then that was it. And we never saw another name. Wu's name never showed up again. I really liked Wu. I thought he was great. It's just Tony, Super Idol, maybe the one thing I wish didn't exist. But Tony is still fun with it. Like, it's not just like he reads it and we're like, okay. Tony does the bag of tricks. He gets a little bit of more in his Toniness comes out, I think, because he feels so safe. And that just makes for good TV. I don't know if it would have been as entertaining in anyone else's hands. So yeah, like, I don't love the Super Idol. I didn't want it to come back. I don't think it ever needs to exist. The regular idol fits perfectly. That's the one thing where I'm kind of like, don't need that. Didn't need that on this season. It's okay. Like, Tony still had a regular idol. He would have been the same at the end of the day. Tony talks llama. It's amazing. It's hilarious. This was like when I sat down to make like top 10 videos, like top 10 moments, like Cagayan was by far the easiest. There were moments where I was like, I want to put this in the top 10, but I decided not to. And that ultimately tells me it's unquestionably, I just like, I got to put it up high. Number 3, arguably number 1. There you go.
There you go. We ranked it number 2. Guess what? Crazy. RHAP. They ranked at number 2 as well. We're kind of in unison with these top 10 seasons. Before we go into the top 1, the best season of all time, rapid fire question for you, chat, and Flynnmasters as well. We've talked about so many amazing moments from this season, so much to love. You pick one. What's the single best moment from Survivor Cagayan? Go.
The merge episode, the flip, everything that went in that tribal. My goodness, they play the idols wrong, and it looks like Jeff was a safe vote, and boom, they flip on Sarah. Cass flipped on Sarah. Absolutely incredible. Probably one of the best tribal councils of all time, if not the best.
Yep, it's incredible. Maybe only rivaled next to like Heroes versus Villains merge, which is also fantastic.
Well, guess what we're talking about next? The best season of all time, Survivor Heroes.
Gabon. Where's Gabon? The Gabon eraser.
Where is Edge of Extinction? Anyways, interestingly enough, we all were very similar in Survivor Cagayan. We all had Cagayan within our top 3, not for Heroes versus Villains. We were a little more spread out on this season. I was top 5, Flynn 2nd, Ethan number 2, Peridium 7th, and idle out your favorite season of all time, the best season of all time. So we're going to start with you, idle out, the best season of all time. It's Heroes versus Villains. It's a classic. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I mean, just incredible cast, incredible gameplay, just amazing moment after moment after moment. Banana etiquette is, great pre-merge, great post-merge. The final 3 are all like, most iconic final three of all time. Banana Etiquette, probably one of the greatest Survivor episodes ever. Just, I don't know. Just for me, it is the best season of reality TV that I've ever seen. I hope Survivor tops it one day. I definitely don't think they will. It is just an incredible season of TV.
Flynn and Ethan, you both ranked it as the second best season of all time. We'll start with you, Ethan. Let's get a little more specific. Some of your favorite moments about the season. What makes it your second favorite season of all time?
Really, the idol plays are just on another level. You've got Tyson getting bamboozled by Russell into thinking that he can vote a certain way, and then there goes an idol play. Also, just the way that Russell plays the idol is just so good. And then boom, Tyson's out. Hate to see Tyson out, but it's a great moment. And then you've got JT thinking outside the box. Let's send this idol over to Russell. He's not really a villain, right? They haven't seen his season. Maybe we can work with him. He's obviously on the bottom of his tribe. And then JT goes home because he gets rid of his idol, allows Parvati to play two idols. You're playing two idols, you're doubling your chances of playing it on the right person. She does. JT's out. It's just they're not just good idol plays, they're season shifting plays. They change the course of where the season goes from there on out, and it's just some top tier gameplay.
Before we go to
fans.
Flynn, before we go to you about why the season's so awesome, Luke, quick question. Is Candace the heroist of all the heroes?
Inarguably. Who's
just
more
making
heroic than Candace?
Just making sure.
Like, we all agree, right?
Yeah.
She abandoned Yule. How could she not be?
Yeah, to go to Adam.
Yeah, to join Adam.
Fan favorite Adam.
Yeah. Okay, just
her dropping out of medical school gave us Parvati on fans versus favorites. So
there you go.
There you go.
She changed the course of Survivor history.
Honestly, that gave us the best season ever, in my opinion.
Flynn, heroes versus villains. We ranked it average together the best season of all time. Again, everyone knows that this is going to be either one or two in anyone's rankings, most people's rankings. Why do you think this is the second best?
I mean, again, I don't really have much to add. It's just you have an iconic cast, and like the idol plays aren't just like memorable, like literally top 5 moments in all the show memorable. They're just so iconic. We haven't talked about the Queen. We got the first ever 2-time Survivor winner. How about that? I mean, look at that final tribal council. I mean, yes, no one knew who Russell was, but still, the fact that Russell and 2 winners made it to the end is just insane. Again, we talk about flow. That's big for me, right? How much am I enjoying episodes? Even, the heroes are kind of pagonged in a way. You have the Danielle blindside there, but it is kind of a pagonging. But the episodes are still so fun without it because the characters are so great. The gameplay is so dynamic, Yeah, I mean, what's a negative is the real question, right? I really can't think of a negative other than maybe like the pagonging and Russell maybe getting a little too much, for a second season in a row, getting so much screen time, whereas people like Courtney get 4 confessionals. So I don't know if it's that low, but
I was gonna say the only knocks on why it is number 5 for me, still a top 5 season of all time, but why it isn't the best, the second best, the third best, is there's a little too much of Russell throughout the edit and the pagonging of the merge. I think the pre-merge is excellent, amazing, top tier, best Survivor you can get. That post-merge is a little pagongings. Peridium, I know, still amazing Survivor, the 7th best of all time.
Yeah,
is great. This similar for you on why it isn't a little bit better in your rankings?
I know a large part of it was it's just like nobody can shut up about the season that I'm just going to put it down a few because forget it, which isn't fair because I didn't judge any other season. And I was also, and then
it would have broke the tie if you did that.
Yeah. So I think we can say this is number 1.
I would probably put this higher on an average day. But it was like, I did put Gabon above it almost as a troll. And I'm happy I did because, hey, I knew this. I knew Gabon was going to be low and it's still too low on this season ranking. And I didn't get to talk about it. So anyway, let's talk about Gabon for a minute. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, I think there's too much Russell, a little too much Russell for a 0 place, 0 vote getter, 3rd place 0 vote getter. It's a little bit too much like the second chapter to Russell's losing story arc. Why is Sandra is very invisible in the beginning for the first half, and I don't like that. I don't think it should have been that way. There was a lot more interesting stuff happening than just Rob versus Russell. They decided to make it a title fight leading into season 22, my least favorite season in the history of the show. Courtney is also incredibly invisible, and you can't just say, well, she wouldn't make for good TV, because we have Survivor China to show us that's not true. So whenever people use that argument, they're like, oh, they probably just weren't good TV. I'm like, they clearly have done something to get on the show, and not only that, but it's literally an all-star season, so we know there's a reason they got brought back. So it doesn't hold up. And Tyson is also pretty invisible, and he's also one of my favorites. I find it hilarious how he goes out, though. I think that's incredible. I guess I'm just giving you the negatives to ultimately, like, it's in my top 10. It's still a fantastic season. It probably should be top 5 for me at least. But there are a few things that I think people overlook when it comes to loving it personally that I would be like, I don't want that on any season. So I'm not going to just excuse it. Just like Edge of Extinction on Winners at War. I'm like, anyway.
Yeah, makes sense. And crazy enough, wow, we ranked it number 1. RHAP also ranked it number 1. Crazy. Ethan, this last rapid fire question is going to be for you and as well chat. A little bit of both. Will we ever see it? And do you want to see a Heroes versus Villains 2 in the US version of Survivor ever again?
You see, like I love the idea as a concept, but I mean I can't really lie. I definitely would like to see it again. Do I think it's gonna happen? I don't know. Like I'm trying to like figure out like what are they waiting for to do it. Like I think doing Winners at War 40 was a great idea. I know there's always talks about like a legend season. So it's like at what point are they gonna do a second Heroes versus Villains? Because that's not like you don't do Heroes versus Villain 2 for season 46. Like I feel like that's a pretty like standout time you've got to do it. But I feel like they could definitely put together a pretty stand-up cast. Maybe not as great as the first one, but yeah, I'm sure they could pull something together.
I don't think Jeff will, though. Just wanted to say, because I think he realizes how good the first one was, that like somebody said in the chat, like lightning won't strike twice. Like they did it twice for fans' favorites. I mean, to be fair, Jeff said it was a great season, so I don't know. But
Cochran won.
I'd like to see it with newbies, honestly. Like you could have cool. like used car salesmen,
Heroes versus hustlers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we pretty much got
have the healers in there.
They're gonna kind of do that for Australian Survivor next season.
Yeah.
Yeah, aren't they having like 6 and 6, like 6 newbies? Yeah, that's an interesting concept. I'm actually piqued my interest. See what they do.
Yeah. Anyways, it is time for our Survivor Buff giveaway, everybody. So let me share my screen real quick. Window, share. We have 48 entries. If we can try and get 2 more, that would be awesome. We have to do hashtag buff if you want to be entered in the giveaway to win this awesome Survivor Buff.
Did you enter yourself again, Russell?
No, I'm not going to enter myself again. That'd be so bad. Almost won last time.
Yeah, I almost won that. He was one away from winning.
We'll go in 5, 4.
Oh, no, now everyone's.
3, 2, 1. Let's go. Good luck, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in for all these streams. This has been so much fun.
It has been, guys. Oh my God.
That would have been really funny. TCAF. Private message me on Discord, Instagram, something, and I will make sure to send you that buff. Thank you so much for participating. Stop sharing my screen. And we're closing out this stream. This has been so much fun. Before we close things off, I kind of want to ask around, what season are you surprised did not make it in here to this top 10? Briefly look here. We have at number 10, Millennials Gen X, 9, Pearl Islands, 8, Tokenshins, 7 Winners, 6 Cambodia, 5 China, 4 Micronesia, 3 David and Goliath, 2 Cagayan, and 1 Heroes and Villains. I'll go first. I was surprised in a joking meme way, surprised about Edge of Extinction, but in a more serious way, I was surprised Cook Islands didn't make it into the top 10. So I'll go with you, Luke. Any seasons you were surprised?
Yeah, I'm pretty surprised that Philippines didn't squeak in there. I think it's
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah,
There you go.
I think, and Borneo as well. I think just From a historical perspective, I think a lot of people rated it high. I still think it's like a really good season, but yeah, both of those two were the biggest surprises for me.
Awesome. And then before we close things off, I like to give everyone a chance to defend a season they didn't get to talk about. Prettium, I feel like you're itching to talk a little bit more about Survivor Gabon.
Yeah, it's way too low. Are you kidding me? What is that, like bottom half of the tier list? Gabon is a great season of Survivor.
Okay,
I don't
chat,
understand. Look, it's bad gameplay. Like,
we're at
who
85
cares?
likes. If this gets 100 likes before the stream's done, we'll do a Gabon debate at some point. I'll make it happen. Don't worry about it.
Look. You got
Let's do it.
41 seasons of gameplay. You can watch Brian Heidig slog to the end if you want. Gabon is going to give you unpredictability that you won't get on so many other seasons. Some seasons have a couple of Gabon players inspired by Gabon, but you get them all on one season, and it's a beautiful location. Like, of course, I'm gonna love it. I love Tocantins. I love China. So Gabon is maybe the most beautiful, other than if Cook Islands was in HD. I think that might be number one. I think there's a couple of flaws. It's not perfect, but I think it's so underrated by the fan base. I think it's so dramatically underrated. I think Bob is like the perfect winner for watching the game players trip over each other. To have Bob Crowley, who doesn't even defend himself in the final tribal. He doesn't even know what he's doing. He's just like, he basically throws in the towel and they're like, all right, that's good enough. Because at least you did something. You threw the towel and like Sugar's flicking us off and Susie's just doesn't stop talking. And to be fair, probably Susie was robbed a little bit, but that's a completely different argument for another time.
Yeah.
But Bob is a good underdog hero winner. He's a fun person to root for. It leaves you with a good ending that people are gonna enjoy for the most part. A lot of the underdogs become a little, like Kenny gets a little bit too cocky, Crystal's a little too cocky, and they get their downfall. That's always enjoyable. Bob is just like the elderly guy who kind of knows he knows how to do it. He knows how to survive on the land. He's a forever Boy Scout. He's a what is he, like a biology teacher or something? Physics teacher.
Julie Berry's teacher.
Yeah.
He's Julie Berry's teacher. Should have been his Chiron at the bottom. Jeff would have hated that. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I don't know. It's chaotic. You get some great characters. There are some great moments on it that I personally don't fully understand. I think it's just people look at it and it has a stigma of it being like a very weak strategic season, and a lot of people just live for strategy, and that's fine. But I just think there's a lot to learn. There's a lot to get out of a season of Gabon that you could take on other seasons. So I don't know.
Ethan, you ranked Worlds Apart the worst out of everyone in the rankings. Now, we didn't rank it too well overall, but you were the worst out of everyone, 41st out of 42. I'd love to know a little bit why it's the second worst season of all time.
I left the season with the worst taste in my mouth. I mean, thank God Mike won. Well, I would have also been happy with if Carolyn had won. But really anybody else, I would have walked out. I already ranked it 41st. It would have definitely been 42nd. The way that people acted, and I mean, it's one thing to be an awful person to people, but it's another thing to be an awful person and then also not even be entertaining on the show. Not that really gives anybody credit, but it wasn't fun to watch at all. I have never gone back and rewatched it, so I'm assuming that there are things that I am just forgetting because I am the lowest on it. But I don't know. Mike winning out to me is pretty cool, but it's not enough to save it.
And then we'll go with you, Idled Out. Borneo, best out of everyone. 9th overall, top 10. I'd love to know a little bit why.
Yeah, I mean, I guess historically, like I said, it's obviously very important, but I think just in terms of characters, if you watch the show, for the characters, Borneo is filled to the brim with them. There's a lot of moral dilemmas that, I mean, granted, are pretty quaint and silly now, if alliances are okay to do, but I think those are interesting questions that they're asking, and from a contemporary perspective. So yeah, for me, just amazing cast. I don't know. It's just great.
Yeah.
I had it number 11, so I agree. It's a good cast.
Anyways, thank you so much for this. I hope we do this again next Survivor off season during the summer. This has been a blast. Thank you again to all my podcast co-hosts, all my panelists. Thank you so much. I have all the links for them in the description down below. These are all awesome people, awesome content creators. They make great reality TV content. Maybe not all Survivor content anymore from all of them, but all these people make awesome YouTube videos. Make sure you go check them all out. And thank you so much for this. This has been awesome. I'll see you next time. Peace.
There you go.